Ladies and gentlemen, we did it! We made another trip around that glowing yellow death orb in the sky and made it through 2023. Congratulations to you as well. You were along for the ride, and I do appreciate you for that. So what I've got for you today, as you can tell by the timestamp, it's quite an ambitious project, but I've hopefully encapsulated a crazy year in news. Well, 2023, okay, didn't quite have the exact same global news stories like, say, a 2020 did, but it was definitely more noteworthy than a couple of previous years, and for my money, okay, you can include 2020 in there for you. I don't think that there was a singular year that had a more consistent news cycle than 2023, okay? There were stories at the beginning of the year that you thought, there's no way that things could get any crazier than that, and it would just continue to ratchet up, and before you knew it, we were breaking several historic records and making some actual groundbreaking, glass ceiling shattering news stories that we'll hopefully be able to categorize and catalog throughout this top 10 list. And if we're going to be completely honest, it's probably closer to about a top 25, top 30 list. I've rolled a couple of topics together because top 10 sounds a lot better than, top, I don't know, there was a bunch of stuff to talk about in 2023. So, give you a little backstory on this list. It's in no specific order, really, not chronological. Some of the things, okay, the top couple of news stories that I'm going to recap, well, those are obviously the most pertinent ones, but the ones that I think made the biggest societal impact for the most people that are out there, they might not have been the most popular stories on my channel, but the ones that we learned the most from throughout the year. That's how I'm kind of stacking these. And yeah, in every single discipline, whether it was entertainment, politics, societal issues, every single avenue was explored thoroughly in 2023. And as we are here, not but a few hours away from what promises to be one of the craziest years on record, okay? We had 2023. Now we can fully put it at our backs and use it as a training ground for the insanity to come. And so without further ado, and because that is actually going to be a pretty good launching off point for our first topic of discussion, if you're looking to hop around for a news story of your choice, timestamps will be in the description because this right here, she's going to be a long boy. So feel free to hop around as you may, and I do appreciate you for affording me some time here on this New Year's Eve. And hopefully, if you appreciate these longer form videos and this type of top 10 recap list of the year, well, tough titties, because the next time that this one's going to come around is at the end of next year. But hopefully you do appreciate this because a hell of a lot of work went into it. So without further ado, let us start off this beautiful top 10 list of the biggest news stories the previous year with a look forward to the future. So, starting off with number 10. I said this at the beginning of the year when the news story broke in January. This is going to be my favorite story of the year. Somebody was really going to have to put in the legwork in order to beat this one off the top spot. And well, spoilers, it's at number 10 for a reason, because, I just got to give a nod to something that I do appreciate so much. Just some chick getting caught in a hilarious situation, and then, of course, exacting female nature and just pointing and trying to pass the blame off to everybody else. Maegan Hall, you were such a trooper. Well, former officer who ran into another vehicle, had a laundry list of complaints before she ended up getting caught in this gigantic sex ring that was taking place at the precinct. It was wild stuff, man. But let's refresh our memory a little bit here, shall we? Maegan Hall, ex-Laverne, Tennessee officer. 5 fast facts that you need to know, and actually 5 wouldn't even be appropriate for her for the amount of stuff that you need to know, and hell, it doesn't even encompass all of the partners that she took on the force as well. And off the force, well, who even knows? But Maegan Hall is a former Laverne, Tennessee police officer who was fired after being accused of having multiple sexual relationships with fellow officers, some while they were on duty, according to a salacious investigation released by the city officials. Internal investigations report initially obtained by WSMV TV was released on December 28th. And yeah, while this did end up happening at the tail end of the year, the story really really blossomed in 2023, and that's also going to be pertinent to another topic that we're going to be talking about. So yeah, while the story broke, it didn't mature until this year, so you know what, don't worry about it. Stop being such a stickler. It outlined the accusations in very graphic detail. We obviously won't be going over that. I made multiple videos on, I think, just about every topic that we're going to hit here, except for one, latter half of one that I rolled in there. So if you want more detail on that, if you want the deets on this little trollop, well, feel free to go check those out from the beginning of the year. Report accuses Hall of engaging in, relationships that weren't reported to police officials, and accuses her of engaging 2 officers in the Devil's Three-Way while on duty inside, city-owned property. Oh my god, is that what she refers to her vagina? The case has sparked many Maegan Hall memes. My favorite is when you hear the boys at work saying that they want to get together for Monday Night Raw, and then you end up getting that picture right there. But guys, I've been reliably informed that that's actually misogynistic. Okay, that memes about the Tennessee cop prove the internet hasn't shaken its misogynistic roots. Yeah, I don't really care about that, to be completely honest, because they're hilarious. But here's the top 5 things that we need to know. The investigation recommended that Maegan Hall and 4 officers be terminated. One of them actually was, okay, and I got another article up here, but yeah, a black cop claimed that he was fired in a sex scandal while the white cop skated. And this story right here actually just broke, like, within the past couple of weeks, okay? Former Tennessee cop Lewis Powell. Oh, Lewis, yeah, he was, the dog officer. He was the guy who had the peanut butter hookup, is suing the city for racial prejudice. Well, to be fair, she was an all-welcoming entertainer while on the force. So yeah, Lewis and 4 other cops were fired, while 3 were suspended for partaking in sexual hijinks. Fun way to say that, with rookie officer Maegan Hall. The veteran officer is now suing the city, the mayor, the HR director, and the police chief, seeking $3 million payout along with front and back pay. Coincidentally, that's also what he was seeking from Hall, was front and back. Oh, but just not the pay, because she's broke. City terminated and defamed all the officers involved, except those who were white and male, based at least partly on racial prejudice. You don't really care about that, because you hit, bro. You got to deal with that. And yeah, also take a look at that, okay? There was an officer that was also darker than you and a Hispanic guy as well, so come on now. The report recommended that Maegan Hall be terminated for sexual activity while on duty, sexual harassment, conduct unbecoming of an officer, and lying during the course of an investigation. And also recommended the termination of Sergeant Ty McGowan, the white guy, Sergeant Lewis Powell, Detective Seneca Shields, and Officer Juan Lugo. The report says the investigator recommended a suspension of officers Patrick Magolico, Larry Holliday, and Gavin Schulbert. Yeah, see, if you're going to be alleging anybody of prejudice, I don't think Maegan Hall would be a very good target. She was definitely welcoming. The investigator wrote in the report that had substantiated the allegations of unreported sexual relationships against Hall, Magolico, Holliday, Shields, Lugo. He also wrote in a report that substantiated the allegations of the activity while on duty against Shields, Hall, and Powell. He also wrote this substantiated harassment accusations against Hall, Schulber, Lugo, Holliday, Shields, and McGowan, and that he substantiated an allegation of workplace violence, against McGowan. Oh my god, Magolico is pictured in the dark uniform receiving in this photo. Yeah, I don't really care about that stuff, okay? Because number 2, the report accuses Maegan Hall of being at a Girls Gone Wild hot tub party with other officers. Yeah, where she just got, like, pathetically drunk and was trying to do whatever she could to advance, if you know what I mean. Mayor also mentioned a Girls Gone Wild hot tub party at Sergeant Eric Statt's home. According to a report, it later turned out that this party was on a houseboat. Oh, that makes it better. She's on a yacht, a Tennessee yacht, she got. The accusation indicated the alleged sexual relationships were not reported to leadership or the police department, the violation of the rules outlined in the employee handbook. Okay, that totally makes sense. Hall was also accused of sexual harassment. The accusations say that she sent explicit photos and videos to multiple co-workers. Gross, because she's not that great. She's not somebody that I'd necessarily want to elicit pictures from, but to each their own, right? At one point, Maegan Hall's husband seemed pretty upset about her behavior. Yeah, I would too, okay, but a little bit more on this poor cuck. Husband of Tennessee cop gone wild Maegan Hall stands by his wife as he tries to salvage their marriage. Yo, just pray harder, bro. Okay, you weren't enough of a godly man, right? That what ended up happening. He was a devout, or he still is a devout Mormon, right? Unbelievable. Her steamy sexcapades with 6 male officers have heaped disgrace on a small town Tennessee police department. A raunchy romp cop, Maegan Hall, was feeling remorseful about the wild misconduct. Yes, of course, I feel really bad about it, but married Hall performed oral sex on colleagues while on duty, had affairs with proposed threesomes with another officer and his wife, and whipped off her bikini at a Girls Gone Wild hot tub party. Oh yes, fantastic. Their teeth that look like they're nailed in like fence posts. Just terrible stuff. Okay, the baby-faced siren. I'm sorry. What we must have a very different opinion as to what constitutes being called a siren. Told her hard-drinking cop clique that she was in an open marriage and tried to recruit her sheriff's deputy's husband for swinging sessions. However, the clean-cut Jedediah Hall, who we'll get a picture of here. Okay, the son of a pastor. You don't say. Wasn't really on board and instead confronted his wife of 4 years for cheating, according to an internal investigation. How can you confront her now and just go, oh, no, we can work through this, babe, okay? Well, she's out there trying to get a promotion. He's holding her hand and polishing her badge. Fantastic stuff, okay? But is anybody surprised? Okay, like a physiognomy check on this guy right here. He's leaning in, wanting her to like him just a little bit too much. And guys, we could have the big old Mormon family too, right? Because everything's going to be fantastic. Oh, you poor goof. This is what happens when you take advice to get into a relationship by people that still think that you can go ahead and adhere to 1953 rules, when in actuality you're dealing in 2023, or whenever they ended up getting married. And the report says Magolico admitted that he and his wife decided on having an open marriage, and Hall had asked him about doing things with him and his wife. At one party, Hall and Magolico's wife started kissing, and Hall's husband came into the room and seemed upset. Hall said he really wasn't on board. Oh, fantastic. When Magolico asked about her husband's reaction, the report said Magolico admitted to having sexual intercourse with Hall on numerous occasions. Oh, fantastic. Magolico. She asked Magolico to borrow $50 to get a hotel room, but did not want to tell her didn't want her husband to know. Yeah, it's an open relationship. It's just she's not really offering up clarification. He accused Hall of unloading her weapon. Pause. Isn't that what she would be accusing him of? Oh, no, right. And dry firing it at her. Yo, what the hell? So she could hear what it sounded like. All right, fantastic. So, yes, she's very much a nutcase. At one point, the report says that Officer McGowan, okay, would not cooperate, rude, and extremely verbally aggressive. Oh, my God. So that was what else we were dealing with. That was just terrible. Maegan Hall says that she is just going to move on. Yeah, exactly. Probably she hasn't opened up an OnlyFans already. If we're going to keep it a buck, that's normally how this stuff ends up going. And yes, Maegan Hall's a former park ranger husband is sticking with his wife. Even though that the Facebook post is no longer available, who knows? It might have ended up getting divorced. But I've seen a follow-up here. Okay, I've seen a follow-up within the past couple of months or so saying that, okay, and now former Officer Hall is trying to claim that she was coerced by all of those officers. I was sold a terrible bill of goods. I was taken advantage of when I was working at that precinct. Yes, of course. Just don't mind any of the findings of the investigation of everybody in the town knowing your nature to a T. Just go ahead and try to retroactively withdraw consent. Just go ahead and try to gaslight everybody else into believing that you're not in fact a whore. Well, that works out for you because you made yourself a nationally known 304 in 2023. Started off the year with a bang, but at the exact same time, that's not exactly something that you're unaccustomed to doing. While Officer Hall was very much open for business, subject of our ninth topic was also very much open for business, but for a certain period of time in 2023, very much was unable to find a willing participant. And number 9 is the woke company boycott. We had Target, we had Kohl's, we had several other businesses just decide to really hit it hard when it came to Pride Month this year. Holy man. You couldn't go anywhere without seeing pride flags, progressive pride flags, bunch of degenerate behavior happening around outside. Like, it was everywhere, man. Probably the flagship company that ended up handling this the worst and definitely facing the biggest brunt. Heck, they like their market valuation ended up dropping in the billions at one point in time. They've rebounded a little bit, but still, everybody's just going to have a keen eye to them when June rolls around in 2024. Target's popularity hits rock bottom. That's the bottom line. That's a different one. As a boycott hurts the brand. All the way back in July. Yeah, this all started in like late May when the Pride collection ended up coming out and everybody was looking at the designer going, why are you hiring some gay Satanist to design children's clothes? And why do you have tuck-friendly kids-sized swimsuits? What's wrong with you people? Target's popularity is at its lowest point since the metric first began to be tracked after facing a backlash over its Pride range newly released figures show. The brand is still among the top 5 most popular department stores in the United States by simple virtue of being open, okay? Like, I don't think, Sears is doing all that much anymore. Like, what's the Q rating for Woolworths, okay? Kmart is still kind of limping along. Macy's, at least not in Chicago, but, like, what's your competition now? According to research by Pollster YouGov, however, in the latest quarter, it slipped down the rankings and now sits below Costco and Dollar Tree. Hey, I like Costco and Dollar Tree. You're considering that among department stores? That's crazy. That's also crazy in and of itself. Target's popularity in the second quarter of the year was 65% among 1,560 respondents nationwide. It's the lowest since it began tracking in the third quarter of 2020. But what were they all knocked off their pedestal over? How do they go from being 71% positive to now 15%? Oh my God, dislike the brand. 19% were neutral towards it. That's not great. That's really not great at all whatsoever. But you ended up turning soccer moms against you, okay? You enraged the suburban white woman, and then you ended up paying the price, okay? The one group that if you tick off, things will actually change. You found that out first and foremost. And that ended up moving in so many different directions. It was really wild. You had songs, like Billboard chart-topping songs. What was that? Forgadio Bleu, with the Boycott Target song. It was a pretty powerful meme for a while. Hell, it even enraged the left-wing idiots that were out there because, yeah, they'll just go and say, oh, you just enraged the conservatives, and they were emboldened by another boycott, and now they're just being all power-hungry. It's like, no, because there were, calls for violence out there, okay? There were actual documented ones, and like I said, for any of the topics that we're going to be discussing throughout this top 10 plus list, there's substantial numbers of specific pointed videos on these subjects on the channel right here. So if you want a little bit more context, feel free. Just giving you the 35,000 foot view on this stuff. But one specific thing that happened at the time that nobody really talks about anymore is that bomb threats across the country were getting called in because Target didn't stand behind their big gay partners as much as they would like them to. Oh, why is it always that side that always wants to resort to extreme violence? Meanwhile, the quote-unquote right will just end up attacking with indifference. Unless, of course, it's one specific topic. Now, Target boycott may be a really important case for retailers to experience a backlash. What are we talking about? The current polarized climate. More companies could experience a type of backlash that recently hit Target Corporation, warns Daniel Diermeyer, Chancellor of Vanderbilt University, political scientist and a management academic and the author of Reputation Analytics, Public Opinion for Companies. He warned that other companies, particularly the retail sector, could find themselves in a similar position to Target, which has faced an intense big gay backlash over its Pride collection. Target is a really important case, he told MarketWatch, noting the retail giant had been selling Pride products for years. They probably were caught by surprise by the recent backlash. No, it's mostly because by the time that June rolled around, everybody was already getting tired of this over-encroaching nonsense where we just got to go ahead and put up with degeneracy and open sodomy for an entire month. Or like, go ahead and do whatever you want in the privacy of your own bedroom, just as long as you don't do it around kids. And this year they just took it a step too far and everybody was like, yeah, we're kind of done with this stuff, okay? And if you want to put it right at the front of your store, which that was the big crux of this stuff, Target decided to put up their big gay pride selection right there at the front of the store. The first thing that you're inundated with is just, oh, love is love, accept us, just let us love what we want to love. And it's like, yeah, we would. It's just, you don't need to scream it from the rooftops anymore. And if you were in Saudi Arabia, well, you'd be screaming something different from the top of the rooftops. But alhamdulillah, we aren't there quite yet. No, Target ended up moving some of their stuff, okay? They'll try to tell you, and they'll try to revisionist history this stuff, and that's why it's important to go and check the old source documents from back in the cut. But they would take some of their more offensive items and move them to the back of the store, okay? Because, oh, threats of violence, when it was just a couple of goofs that were just trying to make some YouTube or TikTok content come in and move one of the pride signs. Oh my God, there's actual violence. But never talk about the bomb threats that were called in, okay? It's just, water under the bridge, right? Oh, yeah, of course. But Target, as you've seen, didn't really learn all that much throughout the rest of the year because they ended up coming back at Christmas time with Black Wheelchair Santa, which was hilarious in and of itself. And I was trying real hard in my neck of the woods because unfortunately the Target Canada project went up in smoke in less than 18 months. So I can't necessarily go in any sort of a convenient fashion to a Target, but I can go to a Walmart that kind of waded into the woke stuff at the time during Pride Month. And yeah, there were a couple of black Santas, okay? There was a black Nutcracker, which is apropos. I couldn't quite find anything to my fancy. It's unfortunate, because I was really looking for something, okay? I needed the prop. But there were other companies. There were other companies that also joined in this, okay? Obviously, the first and foremost, I think the biggest company, obviously, it was Target, and they ended up paying the price. Target also faced a recent boycott in the past month over LGBTQ plus items being sold for 2023 Pride Month. Some conservative voices claimed that Target was selling tuck-friendly clothing items for children. No, okay, to be completely fair, the tuck-friendly one-piece swimsuit, where you could just go ahead and take your dick and balls and put it in a little pocket so it just looks like you have a smooth Ken doll-like midsection. Gross. No, they were just marketed in the same spot as the kids' pride apparel. And I don't know about you, since I was about 10 years old or something like that, I was fitting into adult-sized clothing. So yeah, it wasn't specifically for children, but then at the same time, you're also saying that kids, well, they aren't legally responsible for anything else that they do, have every right and they have every single coherent thought when it comes to making life-altering, gender-defying decisions. Okay, which are used by transgender women to conceal private parts. Well, if they were actually women, they wouldn't have any dick and balls to conceal, but, oh well, whatever. What Target is doing is far worse than anything Bud Light did. What do you mean, Bud Light? They are selling chest binders, tuck-friendly bathing suits for children. Matt Walsh, okay, said in the boycott, I would imagine. In a statement last month, the spokesperson for Target said the tuck-friendly swimsuits were for adults only, but would you prevent somebody under the age of 18 from purchasing the swimsuit? I don't think so. Adding, given these volatile circumstances, we are making adjustments to our plans for moving them to the back of the store, by the way, that have been at the center of the most significant confrontational behavior. But what about your rainbow Satan gear? No, don't worry about that. It looks kind of cool, right? Another company that hopped on the bandwagon for a short period of time was Kohl's, another department store, right? Just, a little bit more boutique, if you will, and they ended up facing a pretty steep, pretty quick backlash, but they ended up backing off really quickly, so good on them. Kohl's also faced criticism and calls to boycott the store over LGBTQ plus items branded for children. Conservatives took aim at the children's clothing items that featured pride flags and rainbow colors, and they ended up facing a swift defeat on that one, so good for them. And then they ended up rebounding, and guess what? That weird boycott didn't end up going on anymore. It's just, stop trying to indoctrinate children. Okay, go with that one. The North Face. Oh, I remember this. They had that big gay park ranger do weird stuff. Outdoor clothing company, The North Face, has announced Pride season campaigns for the past few years, but the most recent one sparked criticism from conservatives as it featured models dressed in drag. You're supposed to be selling big, plush, fluffy, and warm coats with like faux fur around the hoods. Why do you need dudes wearing high heels? It doesn't make any sense. You get terrible traction on the ice. Spokesperson for the North Face told Newsweek, North Face has always believed the outdoors should be a welcoming, equitable, and safe place for all. Have you been outside? We are honored and grateful for the support of our partners like Patagonia. Yeah, I remember doing a video on that one. That was creepy. Who helped make this vision a reality. But yeah, of course, North Face just overpriced coats, to be completely honest. Okay, so you deserve the fate that you get. PetSmart. Now, this one I didn't know about, but okay. In late May, retailer PetSmart became the next store conservatives criticized over the big gay items for Pride Month. Yeah, why do you have to do that? Okay, like it was always cringe enough when it comes to putting little dogs in purses, okay, or dressing them up, putting little booties on their feet when it's not cold enough or, not wet enough or anything like that. When you get those creepy chicks that are out there that just try to foist their own vapid personality onto their dog, and you can just clearly see that they're not buying it. The strong, independent, mid-30-something with 16 cats at home pays about as much attention to her as do humans of the opposite sex. But I don't know why is PetSmart doing this, and what did they end up doing? All new 2023 You Are Loved collection of Pride-themed clothing, toys, and accessory for pets of multiple species. Fantastic. Conservative commentator Mark Dice responded to PetSmart announcement by saying, PetSmart wants your dog to celebrate queers. Well, that's kind of straight and to the point now, isn't it? Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to be so offensive. But all this talk about open degeneracy and open sexuality really gets the old mind jogging to a couple of months ago when there was something that really took over the internet, and we're going to be talking about that with our number 8 news story of 2023. Did you like that transition right there? Okay, well, don't worry, we got at least, a half dozen more of them, so stay tuned for those. The number 8 news story of 2023 is the beef between Dillon Danis, Logan Paul, and his 304 fiancée, Nina Agdal. I love this story so much because it red-pilled an entire community. Unfortunately, the fight didn't end up manifesting to all that much, but, they can't all be winners. It still doesn't undercut all the good stuff that Dillon Danis did and how many belly laughs I got off of this story. So let us go back in time a little bit. Dillon Danis posts nearly nude Nina Agdal photo after getting served with restraining order as Logan Paul feud continues. Yeah, we'll pick this up right in the middle because, if we run through all of the pictures that are right there, well, this video will get demonetized, and I worked too damn hard on it for that to happen. If Dillon Danis is this relentless in the ring, and spoiler, he wasn't, Logan Paul doesn't stand a chance. Danis continued hyping up his October 14th fight in Manchester, England. Demand him by trolling Paul's fiancée, model Nina Agdal, on social media. The latest post showing a nearly nude Agdal came one day after Danis was served lawsuit papers by the 31-year-old. Yeah, if you guys don't remember, or if you were just not aware of this situation at all, Dillon Danis, knowing about the more scandalous past of Logan Paul, instead of just taking the easy way out by just clowning him for what he did in Japan back in 2015, 2016, no, just decided to make it a little bit more personal because there was some backstory between a former girl of Dillon and I think it was either Jake or Logan who got sloppy seconds off of him. So he's like, okay, cool. Oh, you're going to be wifing up a legendary 304? Let me put her on blast like that. And it wasn't that difficult, man. So he just decided to just simply employ the sleuthing tactics of a Google search to find all of the nearly nude and sometimes nude photography of one Nina Agdal, a very somewhat famous, okay, I was going to say very, but definitely a somewhat famous swimsuit model from the early 2000s. She was on the 50th anniversary cover of Sports Illustrated swimsuit magazine, okay, alongside other, high profile luminaries. So she was definitely something at the time, okay? She was also one of the many spent cartridges from the lineup of Leonardo DiCaprio, so you already know what time it is. She's used to being in those high-profile, high-value circles, and at 31 years old and having the past that she does, okay, if you're Logan Paul, on the way up, not even 30 yet, on track to be a billionaire, known worldwide, for better or for worse, like the man has clout, he has status, he has financial success, but he doesn't have RP awareness, and that's just gonna end up financially ruining him. And that's why this story, I believe, was so important, because it just exposed to everybody that these hoes, their past matters, man. Especially if you're going to be somebody of note. You can't take these chicks seriously, because you can take a 304 out the club, but you can't take the club out the 304. Caption of the post says, "Morning," which was his refrain from posting about Agdal and Paul. Yeah, I can't show you all of that, but let's just say string bikini, not unlike the one that Borat wore from way back in the day. Not that terrible sequel, but you catch my drift. Also on Tuesday, Danis was a no-show for the hearing concerning the restraining order requested by Agdal. Yeah, that was kind of wild because, well, she ended up having a couple of salacious videos end up leaking onto the internet, and somebody passed them along to Dillon. Something about her getting ravaged and needing to find a sausage. Unfortunately, that video clip has been scrubbed from the internet. It's kind of wild. I probably got an old video with it pulled up in there or something like that, but it was, oh boy, it was pretty terrible. As a result, New Jersey federal judge. That was the main claim behind that, right? Oh my God, Dillon was sharing private sexual material. This is basically revenge porn. No, it's not. You had it out there for the public, you idiot. And I haven't seen any kind of movement, because that's what I wanted to do for a follow-up on this. It's like, okay, so what's the status of this lawsuit? Don't know. Still up in the ether. Madeline Cox Arleo, a federal judge from New Jersey, ordered the enforcement of the restraining order on Danis. Don't really know how that ended up planning out, because Nina obviously attended the fight with Logan and got to see that calamity ensue in the front row. He and all of his persons in active concert of participating with him are forbidden from posting, yes, explicit photographs of Agdal without her permission. A lot of them are just all over the internet, but whatever. Agdal claimed Danis, 30, had posted despicable things about her more than 250 times. Well, those are your publicly available pictures, sweetheart, so I don't really know about that. Like, you made that picture right there, okay? Do with it whatever you will, and there you are, not wearing a bra once again. Kind of your trademark look, but go for it. The former Victoria's Secret model also alleged that one of the posts from Danis, which he shared on August 11th, violated federal and state law. One that she claimed was hacked from a private Snapchat. And if your chick has a private Snapchat, I got news for you. She ain't your chick. She's everybody's chick. But that's the one of her laying in a bed, just going, oh my God, I haven't had sex in so long. It's like, yo, what the hell is going on here? But Agdal asked for unspecified damages in the lawsuit. However, she is seeking no less than $150,000 per violation of the federal law prohibiting the sharing of intimate images. And you know what Dillon ended up doing? Continued to make her life a living hell, because he's just got so much publicly available fodder. He doesn't even get leaks or anything like that, because her titties are everywhere. It gets worse every day. Dillon Danis shares controversial video of Nina Agdal's insane, not safe for work moment. Yeah, stirs outcry on Twitter. This one came out after the sausage video, and it's just her getting her titties out. It's absolutely wild. On October 14th, Danis and Paul are scheduled for a 6-round exhibition boxing match. Since the fight, was announced, El Jefe had harassed his upcoming opponent online with pictures of his fiancée with ex-boyfriends, other guys, anybody who's in the vicinity, anybody with a dime bag, anybody who had enough cash to pay the ransom for the evening, but obviously with the disclaimer that's right there. That video, not very safe for work. Obviously, everything's all blurred out, but you kind of get the point. And well, it just kind of ended up with, well, Nina and Logan basically doing this. He might have ended up winning the fight, but he ended up losing the war. And unfortunately, Dillon, well, he's kind of fallen off after the fight. Just didn't end up going his way. That's about the nicest way that I can put it. I'm done with fighting. I'm retired. Love you all. But he's continued to be absolutely hilarious. And also clowning on what's his nuts there, Ian Gary, and his open relationship with his wife, where he took her last name, and maybe her ex-husband lives in the same house, but that's an entirely crazy situation in and of itself. He's apparently got DMs with the wife, just showing that if anybody wants to step up to Dillon Danis, you better be ready for a 4-month plus onslaught of having your girl exposed. So best keep your relationships in check if you don't want to have them put out there for the world to see. And somebody else who should have heeded that advice and making sure that you have something more than just a strong faith and traditional values in order to keep things together. Somebody should have heeded that advice and has done a pretty amicable job of doing so in 2023. They're going to become the subject, at least in half of the story, of our number 7 news story of 2023. Our number 7 news story of 2023 is conservative stalwarts finding new homes. For whatever reason, and we still haven't got to the bottom of this, in mid-April, Fox News decided to commit seppuku by getting rid of Tucker Carlson for reasons, exactly? Like NPR and most of the mass media outlets are just going to go ahead and report, oh, Fox News had to come to a $787 million settlement with Dominion voting systems, and that's why they got rid of the one guy who was actually making the money, okay? The guy who was outviewing everybody else on the platform. Combined together, like what you could just roll. Is the 5 getting as much buzz? Maybe Greg Gutfeld now, but he still isn't even coming close to the numbers that Tucker Carlson was getting in prime time. He was blowing everybody else out of the competition, but then on one fateful April evening, he was gone like that, and everybody was left wondering, why are you doing that? Why you gotta be like that? This is very dumb, okay? So, in an austere 4-sentence statement, Fox News announced Monday that primetime star Tucker Carlson, right, yeah, because he left on Friday, had absolutely no inclination about that, and then Sunday starts to get ready for his job, and then on Monday finds out that, no, he doesn't have a job anymore, doesn't have a show to write, okay, just go ahead and hold on to that monologue, because it won't be useful over here, my guy. Fox News Media and Tucker Carlson have agreed to part ways, the spokesperson said in a statement released by the spokesperson, okay, we want to thank we thank you for your service to the network as a host and prior to that as a contributor. We wish you well in your future endeavors. It's just don't call us, we'll call you. And looking in the ratings in the aftermath, they were definitely looking at trying to call back Tucker, but he ended up doing incredibly well for himself, right? Like everybody remembers, he built up his studio and he got ready to hit the broadcasting scene as quickly as he was dismissed. It didn't take him long, but his chosen platform was a little bit strange to begin with, but it started to make sense as news about an NDA and a non-compete started to come out, and well, the way that Fox wrote everything up started to make a lot more sense. They just simply didn't view Twitter, as it was known at the time, as a viable competitor because, well, they didn't really have streaming services. They didn't really have a viable video hosting service, so yeah, they left that out of the non-compete, so that's why Tucker took his show, at least for a small period of time, exclusively over to the platform. So Tucker Carlson drops a first episode of Tucker on Twitter, questions media narrative about COVID dam. Yeah, and then he started to go into some really base topics and get some really big guests, okay? He had the Andrew Tate interview, which was huge. His interview, sit-down interview with Trump, opposite to the Republican primary debates, was hilarious and far more entertaining than any of those debates have been so far. Spoke with, what's his name? Larry Sinclair. I smoked crack cocaine with Barack Obama in the back of my limo. Alex Jones, a big precipitator of him also coming back, and a special mention of that, Alex Jones getting reinstated after, 8 long years off the platform, finally coming back to Twitter for better or for worse. I like Alex Jones. I like him as an entertainer, as an information source. I think we can all do a little bit better than that, but the fact that he's back on the platform at the behest of a poll, thanks Elon Musk, and special mention to Elon Musk. There you go. There's another one. Him taking Twitter, moving it to X, and having to fight everybody off, specifically the ADL, with a giant flaming sword. It was a good year. It was a good year for alternative platforms, and now that Tucker has been, I don't know, maybe he just wrote out his non-compete clause because within the past month or so, he found himself new homes and launched his own media network, TCM, Tucker Carlson Media. For him, hopefully it ends up working, and he landed on Instagram. I think he's got a YouTube channel and all that stuff, but he also landed on Rumble, which Rumble, yo man, the big moves that Rumble is doing, and definitely, okay, like if I'm going to be doing a recap of 2024, the news stories that come out then, I don't know if it'll be exclusively on Rumble or not, because next year is going to be wild as hell. I think we already know that, so everybody's setting up their little fortresses, okay? Hopping on quote-unquote alternative platforms and trying to build them up as quickly as they can. And obviously you can see I've been a Rumble supporter since day one, okay? Well before everybody else is out there, but it really doesn't much matter, man. Rumble's the place for free speech. Rumble's the place for based takes. For as much as I, appreciate most of the stuff that TradCon say, they get it completely wrong on some avenues. But one of the biggest voices that went over to Rumble and made their home a little green web hosting site was Steven Crowder. And Steven Crowder, holy, what a year this dude had, okay? Ending up in a bitter battle with Blaze TV towards the end of 2022, coming back, taking a sweet time to roll up into the studio in 2023, and then just started his regular show with a bang. Like you can see right there, his first show back, okay, 2.5 million viewers, and was still hitting 2 million several different times over and over and over again, doing extremely well till he ended up hitting a bit of a roadblock, but we'll get to that very shortly. But his problems, or rather his newsworthiness, for as much as he is, because he's one of the biggest daily shows on the entire internet, but his beef with the Daily Wire at the beginning of the year, all over a $50 billion contract. No, it was so much more than that, okay? It was the weird nominal penalties that the Daily Wire would he had to bake into those contracts, and that's what Steven Crowder was referring to in regards to it being a slave contract, given the fact that, you can't really say anything. You ever wonder why all of these TradCon talking heads never really move the conversation and just simply regurgitate the same points over and over again? It's because those contracts, those punitive contracts, it just end up discouraging any sort of line pushing, any sort of boundary pushing conversations, because at the end of the day, they don't want to actually make a change. They just want to make a buck. And in that video, when the first one came out, the 30-minute one, which I went over in pretty good detail as well, okay, the 28-minute long video, okay, he didn't make mention of the Daily Wire at all, okay? There was multiple suitors that were out there, okay? A lot of people could have either been trying to launch a streaming platform, or it could have been some of the other well-established conservative heavy hitters. I think the only one that he purposefully took out of the race, I'd have to go back and watch it, was Blaze TV, and obviously we know that, Crowder ended up signing exclusively, or some sort of an exclusive deal with Rumble, ending up integrating Mug Club with locals, and doing a bunch of really interesting stuff over there. So yes, the Daily Wire situation ended up ballooning into something crazy that is still getting bantied about throughout this entire year. So it was one of those stories that just kind of permeated the year. But something else that really ended up kicking Steven Crowder into the societal zeitgeist is his personal life getting exposed. His personal life, that involved a very contentious divorce, all centering around a leaked Ring camera video. Steven Crowder demands full custody of twins, one despite calling dads largely useless. Yeah, okay. Median says joke, use it in headline. Fantastic. Texas courtroom certainly got louder with Crowder. Get it? That's his show. As conservative internet commentator, Steven Crowder's divorce trial got underway. During the proceedings last Thursday in Denton County, both Crowder, 35, and his wife, Hillary Crowder's legal teams were rapped repeatedly, with the court reporter for chaotically speaking over each other. Yeah, I can imagine that. This was in June. Okay, all of this stuff really kicked off before that. There was so much interrupting and talking over each parties from both parties that the court reporter scolded the parties multiple times, saying he was struggling capturing the testimony. Crowder's attorneys also asked the judge to seal the courtroom, saying it was for the benefit of the pair's nearly 2-year-old twins, Magnus and Charlotte. But something that didn't end up getting sealed was this Ring camera video. And oh boy, the opinions, if they weren't already polarized enough in regards to Crowder over the Daily Wire situation, they certainly were when it came to him berating his wife, which, is an out-of-context clip, okay? There's pieces of that video that's just missing. Conversations that we'll never hear, nor do I really care to hear at all, because it really paints a picture of a marriage on its final legs. We don't know what led up to that. We don't know what caused all of that stuff. All we know for sure is that you can do everything right according to TradCon upbringings. You can marry your high school sweetheart. You could be the first person that you ever engage in sexual intercourse with. You can go to church every Sunday. You can do everything by the book. But at the end of the day, that will not save you. That alone will not save you from the ugly head of divorce, rearing up and claiming another victim. In the footage from June of 2021, he tells her to fucking watch it, and accuses her of refusing to do wifely things. Yeah, probably. He's at work all day, okay? He's a notorious workaholic who has an incredibly strict schedule, as many other disgruntled employees who have terrible work ethics would like for you to believe. Oh my god, he had a button that he would press where he wanted to get the last word on a subject before moving on to the next one. Yeah, that's called running a show. The host gets the final word, okay? And if you run specifically an hour to an hour and a half show and you have certain points that you want to hit, you want to be able to keep it moving along. I don't know why that's a point of contention, but people are retarded. At the time, she was 8 months pregnant with their twins. Oh my god, so that just goes and just wipes away all of the bad behavior of women, huh? Interesting. Her family released a statement saying she had been hiding his mentally and emotionally abusive behavior from her friends and family. Yeah, of course, the pair who married in 2012 have been locked in a contentious divorce since 2021. Crowder claimed the disturbing footage. It's not disturbing. I played it, commented over it, broke it down back when all of this stuff broke out. That's the way that it was sold, though. Oh, it was disturbing, which was released on journalist Yashar Ali's, famous leftist puppet, was misleadingly edited. Certainly was. Didn't see what happened beforehand. Didn't see what happened afterwards. It was all about, I'm going to take the car. No, I need to use the car. No, you can't do that. Now, what was the biggest conversation around that? What does Steven Crowder only have one car? Yeah, the Post spoke to 10 former employees who claimed Crowder ran an abusive company. Yeah, I'm sure. Where he often screamed at his employees, including his own father, exposed his genitals, sent out directives to arbitrarily fire people, and made underlings wash his dirty laundry. Yeah, interns got to do some crappy stuff, okay? Shit sucks. And yeah, maybe he is a tyrant, but that's 10 former scorned employees, and well, based on what we've seen some of them do post their Crowder careers, I would say a little bit of structure is probably a little bit more than any of them are really accustomed to. So take it for what you will. I've said my piece on it. It was just one of those big stories that made a lot of headway in 2023, but hey, do with that information what you will. I know what I've done with it, and some people have come to the conclusion that, yeah, he's a bit abrasive. He's acting a bit like a prima donna, but he may bicker on that assessment. But somebody else who is a big news story in 2023, a verifiable prima donna. And we're going to touch on that with our 6th story of the year. Isn't this a blast from the past, all the way back in February, where a lot of people hopped on the bandwagon of this channel right here on the YouTube side, but it involved a little-known quote-unquote internet activist named Eliza Bleu, or Eliza Knows, or Eliza, who are you exactly? We got to refresh everybody for a second. What's the truth about Eliza Bleu? And does it matter? She's an anti-trafficking advocate, guys. Remember, she claims she does good work until people went to go and check her work and realized you're not really doing anything at all. You're just trying to clout chase off of once being in a conversation with Elon Musk. But boy, this was pretty fantastic. Meet Eliza Bleu, okay, or Eliza Morthland. That was her other name. The first fallen girl boss of 2023, the internet personality / anti-trafficking advocate, burst onto the Twitter scene around the time of Elon Musk's takeover. She was obviously a big fan of the Birds app's new CEO, and he seemed to trust her. Blue's tweets about censorship she opposed until she could weaponize it against her enemies, and child abuse material, which she suggested was rampant on Twitter under the previous regime. Well, that is true. She just also tried to take credit for it all being cleaned up when in actuality she had nothing to do with it. On multiple occasions, she implied that she was working closely with Twitter's new trust and safety team to ban popular hashtags used for trading this appalling content. Blue publicly shared a story for her first time on her podcast in September of 2020, where she recounted a sheltered upbringing on an Illinois farm. Before a rebellious phase when she met a photographer who lured her to Los Angeles at the promises of stardom on a trip. The 17-year-old was drugged, assaulted, groomed, and being sold to a much older gentleman for $500. And then, yeah, that's when she ended up getting cut in a bit of a web of lies, if you will. The hazy nature of the story and the existence of several different aliases raised questions about Blue's past. Last week, a YouTuber named apparently found a rap video featuring a scantily clad Blue Holy crap. This takes me back to a simpler time. And asked if she'd ever discussed the performance in the context of her story. She tweeted a photo for a still of the video. Oh my god. Yeah, right. Yeah, because that's how everything broke out, okay? People were tweeting just simple pictures from the publicly available World Star hip-hop produced video, and they were getting banned on Twitter. That was wild. She tweeted a photo from the video as publicly available on YouTube since 2016. It ended up getting taken down. But when, Venti's account got suspended for sharing the image, fans called out her erstwhile free speech advocates' hypocrisy, as well as the apparent abuse of her connections to higher-ups at Twitter. Exactly later that day, Bleu announced that the video included private images. It's a World Star hip hop video. Definition of trafficking. Yes, oh yeah, she was a victim of sex trafficking. Couldn't really articulate how she'd been a victim of it. But it's hard to reconcile with what Eliza Morthland, the beloved daughter of wealthy Illinois politician, or Eliza Cutts, the popular hairstylist in Chicago's rock scene, or Eliza Knows, the rap video vixen who had a pronounced black scent, and some of her, I was just real thankful about my opportunities that I got. And I'd like to thank God. Ugh, the profile doesn't even fit comfortably with Eliza Bleu, or a lot of people who knew her, because Eliza Bleu's own friends aren't buying her trafficking story. This was so funny, and everything, you remember, everything kicked off, or at least everybody started to dig a little bit deeper when she decided to go on Timcast, who will become a little bit more pertinent in the development of this story again, when they decided, stupid Shane Cashman decided to run like a 3-part, 30,000 word expose and then take it down for her and then put it back up and then re-edit it and then just call everybody brain dead idiots if they didn't listen to everything that he was saying. And guys, it's gonzo journalism. That was so much fun to cover. How simpler times. We're striking lilac hair and a pugnacious attitude. The anti-sex trafficking activist known as Eliza Bleu has broken onto the scene of the top tier of the right-wing media in just a few years, growing her audience through interviews with popular figures like Ben Shapiro. Oh, right, yeah, because Daily Wire really put her on to begin with. Tim Pool, again, I already mentioned that, and Dr. Drew Pinsky. But late 2022, Bleu found an even more powerful ally, new Twitter owner Elon Musk. Bleu, who refers to herself as a survivor of human trafficking, has lent the billionaire an unusual form of credibility by insisting that pre-Musk Twitter was overrun with, CP, which it very much was, okay? Bleu's praise for Musk comes even as the billionaire has slashed much of Twitter's staff, including a whole bunch of workers responsible for content moderation. And then, as soon as he did that, and then magically, all of that offending material just went to the four winds. Very strange. But yes, now regarding her story, I don't really need to hear about this maudlin kvetching when it comes to, Twitter under Elon Musk. Oh my god, it's the Daily Beast after all. Now, two former friends of Bleu tell the Daily Beast that, at best, Bleu was exaggerating her experiences for attention. Oh, really? It's making a lot of her old friends around here really angry, said Carly Wenzel. Oh, yes, that was the one who was with her alongside a bunch of the different Chicago outings. If you know, you know. A one-time pal of Bleu who had known her for 2 decades, who added she believes Bleu is completely lying. Yeah, it doesn't quite line up, or she's completely lying. 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, if you will. Bleu grew up in a rural area of Illinois border with Iowa known as the Quad Cities. She portrayed her homeschooled upbringing as an innocent one, albeit one that made her all more naive about how the world really works. Despite her claims to the contrary, public records prove that Bleu's original name was Eliza Morthland, born in 1981. Oof, old bag. Her father is Richard Moreland, a farmer and former Illinois state representative who ran unsuccessfully on the GOP ticket for lieutenant governor in 2018. Morthland did not respond to requests for comment, but now she has a lot of free time on her hands. In 2020, Bleu appeared to deny on Twitter that she was Eliza Morthland, but Facebook photos show her standing with the members of the Morthland family. Yeah, that ended up being 100% true. There's no question that Bleu has advocated for victims, of course. Yes, she has, but let's keep it a buck here. 2 of her most famous, quote-unquote, victims, well, they have a credibility problem that is only matched by Eliza's. Interviewed on Tim Pool's podcast, yes, Timcast IRL, back in early 2023. Those are the days. Bleu said she could not offer details about her alleged abuse or abusers because of unspecified legal issues. She then asked why that would be a problem if she was making... She then asked why it would be a problem if she was making up her story. Let's say hypothetically it's made up. It ended up being proven to be made up. Getting Twitter to address child abuse material and make it a top priority. I'm not asking an abuser for money, I just want a little bit of clout off of it. All of her claims ended up being incredibly strange, but then her friends at the time was like, no, she was more than willing to participate in this stuff. Wenzel, one-time friend of Bleu, who says that she's known the anti-trafficking advocate for more than 2 decades, doesn't think Bleu's account is accurate. Wenzel told the Daily Beast that she met with Bleu in the Quad Cities, where both women were partying with musicians. Yes, and that was another when she was under the moniker Eliza Cuts, where she was in deep with one of those emo bands. I don't want to disparage, their good reputation by naming the wrong band, but she was caught up in that scene. Wenzel was 18 and Bleu was in her early 20s. And Daily Beast verified Wenzel's friendship with Bleu through photographs. Wenzel's telling she and Bleu were both deeply involved in the scene subculture in the early aughts, a time of tight jeans, swooping haircuts, and high drama on sites like MySpace and LiveJournal. Yo! Wenzel was trying to hook up with a member of one of her favorite bands on a tour bus in Iowa City when Bleu stepped on board. The two young women realized they had mutual friends and shared an interest in music and the men who made it. Wenzel takes issue with Bleu's timeline for her first trafficking experience. She claims that she too was at the Warped Tour concert where Bleu met the photographer she claims groomed her. But when Bleu said that she wasn't even 18 when she met the photographer, Wenzel insists that Bleu would have been in her early 20s, putting the date to the concert somewhere in the early 2000s. And yeah, her stories would end up unraveling from there, and still haven't heard word about that lawsuit that she was preparing with some of the victims. Okay, one of them would have been Ida Gabby, and the other one being the Moldovan stripper that accused the Tates of some horrific stuff at the end of 2022, and that story ended up playing out in 2023, and it still doesn't have that much of a solution, but maybe I'll touch on that one a little bit later. Don't want to spoil any of that stuff, but what is Eliza doing right now? Because we know, and I did hours dedicated to all of her stuff in February, and then she just completely and totally fell off, which is indicative because she was using her Twitter account vociferously during that time and getting a lot of engagement, and now yeah, you have 250,000 followers, and you get 33. Oh, that post is doing some numbers. 84. Okay. 50. Oh no, that's a repost. That's another repost. Carl is up. Carl. Okay. Oh, that one's 60. Oh, you only had to post a cat picture. Not like that one. I wouldn't want you to traffic yourself online anymore. But she was the first, like it said in the Unheard article, the first internet personality to really stumble out of the blocks in 2023. And unfortunately, well, she wasn't the only one. Somebody else who made a real asshole out of themselves in 2023. Somebody that I talked about quite a bit and didn't anticipate talking about anymore. There you go. Get it all into proper flame. He's a big boy. He needs, proper sizing. Was the completionist, and oh boy, did that situation end up getting sketchy. Okay, that's one that we probably know a little bit better. Okay, you guys, some people didn't like my take on it. Obviously, they're not sticking around, especially in the midpoint of this long-ass video. Long story short, Gerard, the completionist, somebody that I've met before, think that, he's a pretty decent guy. He's had a long career on the internet, and unfortunately, he's had a long career being affiliated with a charity that wasn't necessarily putting the money where it claimed it intended the funds to be going. It just simply sat in a bank account. And then, of course, two drama farmers on the internet, Carl Jobs, then Mudahar of some ordinary gamers, ended up getting tipped off to what happened with the charity. Gerard ended up causing a big stink and then just ended up, becoming a lolcow at the end of 2023. It all kind of culminated with an hour-long Discord call. It was about 40 minutes, right? I did an hour-long video on it. Still think that there hasn't been a crime committed. If there's actually been a crime committed, go ahead and throw him away. For as nice of a guy as he was when I met him a couple of different times, okay? It doesn't really much matter. If you scammed people, you scammed people. But the stigma is there. Unlike Eliza Bleu, who profited off of lies, Gerard just kind of seemed like an oblivious asshole. And then now has been labeled with thief, scam artist, con artist, embezzler, all of the worst things that you can possibly associate somebody trying to do some good work with a charity. He thought he was doing something good with it, till it came to his attention that money that he'd been raising for the better part of a decade hadn't been moving. It did eventually end up getting moved out to a charity that wasn't specifically affiliated with Open Hands, but it did go to the same type of cause, a small Pennsylvanian outlet, as opposed to when it was supposed to go to Alzheimer's for America and a Southern California university studying Alzheimer's, which unfortunately took Gerard's mother a few years ago. Hence why he started that charity, hence why it's so personal to him and his family, and unfortunately, the charity in and of itself was very family-oriented and has caused a major strife, but we haven't heard anything from Gerard since the release of these exposés that have been dropping since the beginning of November. Outside of the one video of him refuting some of the claims that were made against him, he's been radio silent and kind of getting the tail end of the year treatment, and Eliza Bleu ended up picking up right there at the beginning. No good deed goes unpunished, if you will, and if you want to make grandiose claims, you better be able to back them up, because somebody's always looking to catch some cheap clout off of a poor handling of a situation. Speaking of poor handling of situations, our fifth story of the day, well, I guess a part of this video, of 2023, okay? Something that was, really, really hot and really speaks to a larger problem in an industry as a whole, and this person ended up becoming an avatar of that type of insufferable behavior. I think you know who we're talking about with our fifth story of 2023. Somehow it happened. Brie Larson had been dethroned as the most unlikable person in all of Hollywood. All it took was some poor casting of an iconic character by an insufferable, entitled Gen Zer, Rachel Zegler. Oh my lord. And I understand a lot of the source material came from October of 2022, but it ended up resurfacing in on and around the time of the writers and actors strike that was out there, and Rachel was out there on the stump saying, if I'm gonna be in that Disney princess dress for 18 hours a day, I deserve to get paid for every hour that I'm in there. Weird. God bless her. God bless her, because this was also very fun. All of these stories have been fun to cover in 2023. But the way that she handled the situation at the time, oh my god, it was so bad, and there was so much material, and it just kept on coming out, that just how insufferable she really was. Because, okay, a lot of people could just kind of play it off. It's like, oh, she's a 22-year-old airhead just repeating a bunch of feminist talking points, and then people started to go through her history, okay? She started to talk smack about an industry veteran like Sean Bean, took the wrong side in a contentious divorce, and said some incorrigible things about Jeremy Renner. Side note, one of the first stories of the year, and thank God he's on the path to a very successful recovery. That was a scary situation when, Jeremy Renner ended up rolling his snowcat in the first couple of days of the year. Also survived, Rachel Zegler dust up. And then also Rachel being discovered to being one of the band leaders, one of the wokies at the head of the parade leading the cancellation charge of Gina Carano. Everybody decided to go from, let's give her the benefit of the doubt to, some people are actually like really stupid. That's how we ended up here. How Snow White star Rachel Zegler managed to piss off both Disney fans and conservatives. Why is that being presented as a dichotomy? I would consider myself, especially of the Renaissance and some of the really old stuff, like the original Snow White and all that stuff. Like, it's nice, okay? It's homey, it's a touch nostalgic. I have a bit of a proclivity for, the Fox and the Hound, as opposed to the old traditional Disney princesses. But especially Pixar's early run, the Renaissance, like I made mention of before. Disney had some really good stuff, and I would definitely consider myself conservative, if not categorize my politics as needing German subtitles. But I guess maybe if you're talking about modern day Disney fans, okay, cool. Yeah, I wouldn't think that you would find it conservative, at least one that's open and honest among their ranks, that's for true. Latest heated debate to take over TikTok doesn't involve any influencer or brand trip or a celebrity feud. It involves an upcoming live-action remake of Disney's classic 1937 animated feature Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Oh boy, the upcoming edition of Disney's endless string of remakes is slated to release in March of 2024. Well, that's not the case anymore, because it ended up getting bounced out a year. It'll be coming out regrettably in March of 2025, and don't worry, they're big CGI dwarfs now. Ugh. And will star Rachel Zegler. Yes, best known for being half Hispanic, half Polish, and not looking anything like Snow White. Just saying. Yeah, best known for her roles in West Side Story. Flop. Best known for her roles in Shazam 2. huge flop. More on that in a video that I just released, I think a day ago or something like that. It's about an hour long about the flops of Hollywood of 2023. I couldn't possibly wedge all of that stuff into this video right here. It required its own specific analysis. And of course, her next feature, the one that's out there, well, not quite out there in theaters anymore, the Hunger Games prequel, right? The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which we can go ahead and take a look at the numbers of right now. And guess what, guys? It's not popular. It's not good, okay? It's half as successful as the least successful of the original franchise, okay? Its box office total, it's basically pulled from the theaters, okay? Or at least it will at the time of release of this video, because I couldn't find any tracking. I couldn't find any daily numbers that are being reported. It's basically gone, okay? $306 million worldwide. That's a good haul in a year of just absolute bombs where anything with a 3 at the beginning, thinking that you're striking gold, but in comparison, not even adjusted for inflation, that doesn't even get to half the box office pull of the original Hunger Games in 2012. Is this a hit? Is breaking even on $100 million budget? You make $306 million? No, you still lost money. And that's all due to the fact that, well, Rachel Zegler has the likability of a Uber driver wearing a neck brace. The new Snow White movie has already been a target of, shall we say, traditionalists who are not happy about the casting of Zegler, who is half Colombian, okay, and half Polish. Nobody ever talks about her half Polish, though, as the famously fairest Disney princess. Yeah, with skin as white as the driven snow. Where do you think she gets her name from? But of late, Zegler has angered more than just the usual suspects, beyond the narrow band of losers obsessed with maintaining the bloodline purity of cartoon princesses. Why is that in quotations? That sounds like something that you probably pulled off the deepest, darkest reaches of Stormfront. People who, seemingly all kinds of political and racial demographics, now appear to have a bone to pick with the 22-year-old actor, thanks to a few resurfaced clips from interviews in which Zegler discusses the progressive updates that the new version of Snow White will have. Yeah, let's go into some of these, shall we? Almost a year ago, at least from the time of the print of this article, obviously, Zegler, who had recently been announced as the lead for Disney's live-action version of Snow White, gave an interview to Extra TV at 2022 D23 Expo, an event very similar to Comic-Con, but exclusively for Disney projects, to discuss her upcoming turn as the titular princess. In the interview, she notes that Snow White's familiar story would be reimagined for today's more progressive time. This is not unusual. Yeah, it's quite a precipitous drop-off here with your comparisons. Emma Watson's Belle, she looked close. I never heard anything good about that Beauty and the Beast remake. Abandons her corset. Okay, and 2017's Beauty and the Beast. Halle Bailey. Oh yeah, Ariel saves the princess, or the prince, sorry, from the villainous Ursula instead of the other way around. Yeah, that's the problem that people had with the Little Mermaid remake. That's the one. However, it's not so much for Zegler, who has said that it appears that she has ruffled feathers the way trying to explain the film's progressive makeover, as Zegler criticizes the original for very evidently being a product of the 1930s. It was made in 1937, okay, so it's clearly outdated. I don't even know if the prince is going to be in it, okay? I don't even know. Maybe all of his lines will just get removed. That's showbiz, baby. When stupid Gal Gadot standing beside her. No, she's not going to be saved by the prince. So glad to get to say that one more time in 2023. In another resurfaced interview from last year, The Time with Entertainment Weekly, Zegler reveals that she was scared of the animated movie after saying, and then she would later go on to recharacterize this story. She's kind of like Eliza Bleu in that respect. Can't really keep all of her stories straight. She hated the original, only watched it once, but then at the same time, she was also a big fan and went out for Halloween as Snow White before. So guys, trust us, she really loves the feature, but notes in the interview that the original film is extremely dated, and ideas of women being in roles of power and what a woman fits in the world in the new version. He says the film's most famous phrase, the fairest of them all, will refer to the most just as opposed to the most beautiful. Yeah, because nobody's believing that Rachel Zegler, even for as much as I detest the Gal Gadot as an actress, as a model, was a pretty bad bitch at the end of the day, if we're going to keep it a buck. But one of the most famous clips that are out there, and I would be remiss if we didn't play at least something, okay? Got our best girl out here getting ready to do what to that microphone? Okay, listen, you got to talk into it here. This isn't a casting couch, okay? Come on now. But let's just let's just play one of the most famous clips of 2023, shall we?
I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird. So we didn't do that this time. I mean...
Oh my god, what an airhead. I mean... But then it's so funny when you compare and contrast that with the Variety interview that came out.
It's like a monumental moment in film history.
Yeah.
It was like the first feature-length cartoon movie, to the point
Oh my
where
God.
it won honorary Oscars and
Really?
all of these amazing things that happened for that film.
Did you just notice the amount of real estate that's for sale between both of these chicks' eyes? It's kind of crazy. But yeah, no, this came out just a couple of months ago. Did a video on it, and it was great. It was fantastic. Just how contrite Rachel was. Oh, it was so great.
The reason
Don't mind the Z snap. Oh my God, Halle Bailey. What a insufferable.
that you and I really get to sit here today because it made Disney what it is.
Oh, yes.
So of course there's like this pressure of being the
listening and reading all of my publicist's talking points, because clearly I got beat with a rubber hose after all of those interviews surfaced and the writers and actors strike got cleaned up. So now I can go out there and do full court press, the new Snow White film that needs all the help that we can get. And yeah, when we talk about toxic fans that are out there, I just go ahead and say, you know what, maybe they're just having a really bad day. They don't understand how hard I work as an adult pretender. But let her continue.
the first one, having to bring to life the first one, and obviously that's come with a lot of pressure that I've put on myself.
Just gravitational pull with the cursor right there, just got caught between her eyes. It's terrible.
And also, I mean, much like Hunger Games, there's just a very dedicated group of people who love
Hunger Games.
Disney cartoons. I'm one of them. You know, I love everything that the Disney company has put out in the past a million years, 100 years this year. And so,
oh my God, I loved it all. I loved every single bit of it. It hasn't aged at all whatsoever. And no, it's all right. You can go ahead and unload the Glock. I'll be a good girl. I'll just go ahead and I'll just say the talking points. It's going to be so funny, man, because at some point in time over the next 18 months until release, she's going to slip up and say something stupid because, you know, she can't go all that long without sticking her foot in her very wide mouth. I think we all know that this live action Snow White remake is definitely DOA. Okay, nobody likes Rachel Zegler. It doesn't matter how much, you know, PR she does. This might end up helping her career down the line, but as it sits right now, like, this Snow White remake is done and dusted. Okay, we already know the girl boss overtones, undertones, through tones, whatever type of tones you can hear. Like, this one's already poisoned to hell and back. There's no resuscitating this at all whatsoever. Okay, it doesn't even matter now that it has an extra year to cook. It could be the best thing ever, but everybody's just gonna look over and go, ugh, Rachel Zegler, I remember what she was saying about Snow White to begin with. But she's not tanking this film alone, okay? She does have help with that. I made mention of her just a little while ago. The old talentless but attractive Gal Gadot. And there's something else that she did. She was also making headlines a little bit earlier this year. Of course, when she decided to, well, the actors were still on strike, she decided to do a little film screening of her own in support of, well, one of her favorite organizations, one of her favorite chosen topics. You could say God's chosen topic, if you will. But I think you know where we're going to be heading out for our number 4 news story of 2023. The number 4 news story of 2023 is the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, okay? I understand that this pops up every few years, and in the words of one of the sides of these conflicts, they just need to mow the lawn every once in a while, and that's what we're experiencing right now. It's not quite the same thing that happened. I do believe that was in 2021. That was resolved relatively quickly. This right here, it's definitely going to spill into 2024, okay? Like, I don't think in the next couple of hours everything's going to get resolved, but you know the way that time zones work, it's already 2024 over there, so yeah, this one's going to continue for a while, mostly because the neocons that are in the White House need a forever war to go ahead and perpetuate. But instead of delving into some of the more specific details, I've got that fairly well detailed on my Rumble account, and if you want a little bit more detail, I can't highly recommend the likes of Ryan Dawson, shout out, and Scott Ritter highly enough if you'd like a little bit more detail. But in an attempt to spread as much information as I possibly can, while also maintaining a presence on this platform right here, at least for the time being. I don't want to poke too many bears. We'll go ahead and fill in some of the gaps right here, unlike Ben Shapiro, who will just go ahead and put out just blatant propaganda and never walk any of it back. What happened to those 40 beheaded? Don't worry about it, right? It's probably alongside all of those, the tunnels that are just, stacked to the roof. And how did they get all of that mining equipment in this catastrophically poor place? And if there's tunnels under the building that people are using to navigate between multiple buildings, why are you bombing the hospitals and the schools? It doesn't really make a lot of sense. But what's the Israel-Palestine conflict about, and how did it start? This is pretty extensive, pretty exhaustive, but it gives you a decent bit of history, and at least the politically correct, the safe for distribution type history. Conflict pits Israeli demands for security in what has long been regarded as a hostile region against Palestinian aspirations for a state of their own. Yeah, that's nothing like starting off with a half-truth. Israel's founding father, David Ben-Gurion. Oh, what I could say about that, all I can say is, if you want more context on the backroom dealings of Dave Ben-Gurion, Ryan Dawson. Shout out Ryan Dawson. Shout out Numac, actually, if we want to get specific. The modern state of Israel on May 14th, 1948, establishing a safe haven for Jews fleeing prosecution and seeking a national home on land to which they cite deep ties over generations. Yes, my magic words and my magic books say that this is the holy land for the chosen people. Yeah, but what about people that own the land to begin with? No. The UN said that we could have this. Well, it's not the UN's land to give. What are you, anti-Semitic? All right. Palestinians lament Israel's creation as the Nakba, a catastrophe that resulted in the disposition and blocked their dreams of statehood. The war that followed, some 700,000 Palestinians, half of the Arab population in what was British-ruled Palestine, fled or were driven from their homes, ending up in Jordan, Lebanon, and Syria, as well as Gaza, the West Bank, and East Jerusalem. Which, thanks to this current conflict, not much is left of Gaza. East Jerusalem, well, that's been gone for a minute, and the West Bank. It's strange because they're getting shelled, but if the IDF is claiming that they need to defend themselves against Hamas, why are they bombing the West Bank? It has nothing to do with Hamas. Oh, it must be tunnels that go there, right? Israel, a close U.S. ally, in fact, our greatest ally, in case you didn't know, contests the assertion it drove Palestinians from their homes. No, don't believe your lying eyes. The major wars have been fought since then. Yes, 1967, with a little ship called the USS Liberty. Don't look that up. Israel made a preemptive strike against Egypt and Syria, launching a 6-day war. Yeah, exactly. They needed to defend themselves, right? Israel has occupied the West Bank, Arab East Jerusalem, and captured from Jordan and Syria's Golan Heights. Ever since. Yeah, don't look into that too, because if you do, that'd make you anti-Semitic. 1973, Egypt and Syria attacked Israeli positions along the Suez Canal and Golan Heights, beginning the Yom Kippur War. Israel pushed both armies back within 3 weeks. Yeah, no. That's one way that you could characterize that. I guess that is that's the official story, right? Israel invaded Lebanon in 1982, and thousands of Palestinian fighters under Yasser Arafat were evacuated by sea after a 10-week siege. In 2006, war erupted in Lebanon again as Hezbollah militants captured 2 Israeli soldiers, and Israel retaliated. No, I'm sorry, it's called defending yourself. Okay, get on page. In 2005, Israel quit Gaza. Why are we fighting now? Which it had captured from Egypt in 1967. Oh, yeah? But Gaza saw major flare-ups in 2006, 8, 12, 14, 20, 21. That involved Israeli air raids and Palestinian rocket fire. Yeah, exactly. My Iron Dome working as intended, right? And sometimes also cross-border incursions by either side. As well as wars, there have been 2 Palestinian intifadadas or uprisings between 87 and 93. And again in 2000 and 2005. The second wave saw Hamas self-yeeting bombings against Israelis. Oh no. Coming to contract our borders. Whatever shall we do? We better not retaliate, otherwise the international community will look poorly upon us. What attempts have there been made to make peace? Yeah. Oh, they've offered a 2-state solution twice. Fantastic. Somebody comes in and steals your house. Okay, somebody comes in and steals your house and you tell them no. Then they come back with a mandate a little bit later to say, no, I can go ahead and move into your garage. The mayor from a town down the road told me that that's fine. And they end up taking your garage. And then after a little while, okay, then they think that they're going to be entitled to a bathroom because, okay, we've got a garage, we've got living quarters, but where are we supposed to use the facilities? Okay, I need running water and all that stuff. So they end up co-opting your bathroom. And then because they think that you don't use it enough, all of a sudden they just end up start taking your basement. Who's they? Don't know who they is. Nobody quite clarified that. It's very strange. All of a sudden your basement is now under occupation, and then a couple of years later it just turns out that actually this land had been promised somebody's ancestor a millennia ago. Trust us, bro, we seen it in the writings. Your house belongs to me. And then all of a sudden it's like, what happened here? But they're a fair occupant, because then they're just going to offer you the dog run in the backyard. Everything will be fine. Don't worry about it. What's that supposed to be analogous of? I don't know. Go ahead and connect the dots however you see fit. 1979, Egypt and Israel signed a peace treaty, ending 30 years of hostility. In 93, Israel Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin and Arafat shook hands of the Oslo Accords on limited Palestinian autonomy. In 1994, Israel signed a peace treaty with Jordan. Camp David Summit of 2000 saw President Bill Clinton, and Israel Prime Minister Ehud Barak and Arafat fail to reach a final peace deal. Clinton and Barack. Did they fly to Camp David? Because you're going to see their names pop up on a certain flight list whenever that does end up getting wide distribution. Just saying. In 2002, an Arab plan offered Israel normal ties with all Arab countries in return for a full withdrawal from the lands it took in the 1967 Middle East War, creation of a Palestinian state, and a just solution for Palestinian refugees. Peace efforts have stalled since 2014 because, no, we want our 1967 borders back, and Israel was like, no, we ain't doing that. Palestinians later boycotted dealings with the administration of the U.S. President Donald Trump since it reversed a decade's policy of refusing to endorse a two-state solution. The peace formula that, envisages a Palestinian state established in territory that Israel captured in 1967. Where do the peace efforts stand now? Do I even need to cover that? I think we're very much at a hot war right now, with a very high likelihood that we'll be seeing American troops officially on the ground in 2024. Because, Biden's getting desperate and those poll numbers aren't looking good heading into the election. A two-state solution, Israeli settlements, and status of Jerusalem and refugees are at the core of the dispute. Two-state solution, an agreement that would create a state with Palestinians in the West Bank and the Gaza Strip alongside Israel. Hamas rejected a two-state solution and is sworn to Israel's destruction. Likewise, just read what the Talmud has to say about anybody who doesn't believe. Israel has said a Palestinian state must be demilitarized so that it's not to threaten Israel. Oh yeah, there you go. Here, we're just going to give you some land. We know that we took it beforehand, but if you just turn over all of your guns, we promise this time that we won't invade. You'll be able to keep your land. Come on, man. Jerusalem, Palestinians want East Jerusalem, which includes the sites sacred to Muslims, Jews, and Christians. Yeah, but according to one party in this situation, everything in that area, including much wider borders, it all belongs to them. So, okay, to the capital of their state. Yes, Israel says Jerusalem should remain indivisible and eternal capital of Israel. Refugees today, about 5.6 million Palestinian refugees, mainly descendants of those who fled in 1948, live in Jordan, Lebanon, Syria. See, you don't need to live in your homeland. You could just go somewhere else. It's just, okay, go ahead and apply that logic to the other side of this equation, and all of a sudden, things get a little bit more sketchy. But for as much as I'd like to delve into some of the more interesting details, that's basically where we stand right now. Is it going to get resolved anytime soon? Well, not if Biden's at the helm, because controversy creates cash. And it's also a winning proposition. If Biden takes up the side of our greatest ally, you'll end up getting a lot of sympathy from a bunch of these stuffed suits in Congress, because if you follow the money on the Republican side, things end up, let's just say, making a little bit more sense as to who ends up supporting who. What does the I in AIPAC stand for? Can't quite remember. One thing that I do remember in 2023, is our number 3 story, our third most important, somewhat my opinion. And funnily enough, it also involves multiple explosions. Oof, that was a forced transition, but it's still funny. It's a comedy show after all, folks. 2023, we seen an explosion of Me Too cases. Holy man, from toes to titties, this stuff was everywhere. 6 years on, you would have thought that somebody would have learned, especially from the stark example in 2022 of the Johnny Depp Amber Heard stuff, that hey, this whole idea that we could just believe all women, guys, don't worry, trust us, bro, everything was going to be all fine and copacetic, ain't the case at all whatsoever. And especially with other stupid little temporary laws that were on the books, the fact that there are zero repercussions for all of these false accusations that seemingly just come out of the woodworks in order for chicks to just simply secure the bag, things aren't going to change until that happens, until there is equal punishment for these accusations. Okay, if somebody, obviously, here's the bog standard boilerplate disclaimer. Okay, if you've actually been a victim, okay, you know what, this ends up doing, okay, these false accusations end up doing more harm to the real victims that are... No. I don't buy any of that stuff. Real victims, go to the police. They don't sit on stories for years and years on end, not unable to successfully blackmail the rich guys that they also just magically go after, okay? Because real victims really go to the police. Fake victims sit on a story until they can no longer secure their own bag, see it as their last-ditch effort, realize that, you know what? Hey, at worst, I'm going to get some clout out of this. At best, I'll get some clout, and I'll also get some money out of it. So this is not exactly an exhaustive list, but this is one of the more comprehensive catalogs of some of the biggest Me Too victims this year. And somebody, actually a pair, 4 people, okay, including Luana and Georgiana, okay, the Tate brothers, Andrew and Tristan Tate, ending up getting some fake-ass accusations against them. Ask me how I know. I had an exclusive source reach out to me. That's something on the YouTube side of things. I've got an entire playlist dedicated to the Tate brothers and their goings-on, because it's just such a patently false situation that this entire subject is something that is, amen, it's very important, because if it can happen to some of the most powerful and influential men out there and they still get drugged through the ringer for over a year, hell, this investigation even stretches back all the way until 2021, so they've been under the overbearing, quote-unquote, protection of the Romanian government for coming on 2 years. I think it'll be 2 years in April. After all, that's when all of this stuff officially kicked off. But yeah, if you want more information specifically on this case right here, here's the long and short of it, okay? A couple of chicks thought that they could secure the bag, thought that they would end up being the ones, but ended up getting, pumped and dumped by the Tate brothers. They ended up coming out with a crazy accusation. One of the simp boyfriends of Emma Ida Gabby ended up involving Interpol. The Tate's compound in Romania ended up getting ran through by Dicot. The boys ended up getting arrested, thrown into the clink until May, ended up getting house released, and now as they sit at the end of December, when their mother, their only living parent, because Emery Andrew Tate the first passed away many moons ago, but now their mother deprived of their son after suffering a heart attack. And oh yeah, the Romanian government still doing due diligence on all of these very legitimate claims, decided to turn down that request that they can go see their mother in potentially, but hopefully not, her final days. So my thoughts and prayers at this point in time are definitely with the Tate family. But their situation, how they've been drug out, and all of the exculpatory evidence that has come out, well, just no two ways to go about this, okay? They are innocent. They have been set up by somebody who just thought they were going to be the one, but then realized that they were just another one. Somebody else who recently ended up getting caught up in a big old... maybe the first one. Maybe there's some validity. I think some of the details ended up getting blown out of proportion, but Sean P. Diddy Combs accused of a whole bunch of crazy stuff by his ex-girlfriend, or they wifed up at the time, Cassie. Okay, Cassie, who was quite a looker back in the cut, but now... that she's got herself a nice new placeholder husband, okay, is getting on in years, hasn't really had a hit record in a minute, just decides to go, actually, all of that weird stuff that Diddy and I were doing back in the cut. He was forcing me to do it, and I'm gonna need like a $30 million payout. Otherwise, we're gonna be going to court. And well, at the time, I said that Diddy settled, and that was a stupid decision because now that's just gonna simply incentivize more hood rats to come out of the woodworks. And here we are, lo and behold. This is why you never negotiate with terrorists. Okay, like what does Diddy stand to lose by going to trial? Okay, he basically had a sterling repartee in the public zeitgeist outside of just doing some weird dances in the background. Okay, always being Biggie's second, hanging around with Mace and the rest of those guys. But he was Bad Boy Records. Okay, he was making the band. Okay, I'm gonna need a sugar cookie, man. I need a sugar cookie from the north side. Okay, otherwise I can't open up the studio, man. But now all of his sexual exploits are put out there on Front Street, and he's looking wild. And now that there are some vulturous women out there circling around, well, of course, now Diddy looks ripe for picking. This is why you can't do this type of stuff, man. Somebody else who finds himself in a similar situation is Vin Diesel. Vin Diesel? Okay, accused of SB, if you will, in an ex-assistant lawsuit. Is this something new? Well, it just ended up hitting the lines, okay, at the end of December, but this is a claim from all the way back in 2010 that was only precipitated thanks to that stupid, goofy, temporary New York City law that would allow survivors to end up coming forward with their story years afterwards. Come on, with absolutely no punishment against them. Fast and Furious star Vin Diesel had been accused by his former assistant of battery while working for him in 2010. Asta Johansson filed a lawsuit in Los Angeles on Thursday alleging that Diesel forced himself onto her in a hotel suite in Atlanta 13 years ago and just finally had the courage worked up to come forward on it because, oh, the statute of limitations was over, but she probably doesn't have a career in Hollywood being a PA anymore. There's a new crop of 18-year-olds popping up all the time. You just ain't it anymore. But now the Diesel's kind of fallen off. You know, the Fast and the Furious stuff is basically wrapping up. The last one didn't hit quite as hard, and it was one of those unexpected flops. Like, it made money, but it didn't make Fast and the Furious type money. So now she's seen a wounded gazelle wandering around the Serengeti. She decided now is the time to act. And if you want to read some of the goofy details about how, you know, he pinned her against the wall, felt her up in one of the most incomprehensible situations that only a goofy bitch just trying to secure the bag could come up with. Because he was either trying to pleasure himself through his pants while pinning her up against the bathroom wall and then feeling her up and his head between her like, he was doing all of this type of weird twister shit that doesn't seem to make any sense at all whatsoever. But a woman's tears are worth way more than the truth, which we also figured out with Jamie Foxx also getting accused along the same time as I didn't even have everybody's article. Okay, just, you know, humor me for a second. I've got my notepad out here because I don't even have every name. These are just the ones that immediately came to mind, ones that I specifically made videos on, except for the Vin Diesel situation. That one just came up so recently that I didn't have time to talk about it because it was just so damn absurd. But at the same time that Jamie Foxx ended up getting accused from, what was that, like the 90s or something like that? Like, it was great. Oh, 2015 for that one, for somebody who's been in a repeat accuser and has constantly had their lawsuits laughed out of a courtroom, but all thanks to the New York's Adult Survivor Act, which a lot of the people that I'm going to list off right here ended up catching a stray from. Okay, Axl Rose, Cuba Gooding Jr., and other people also accused this year. Michael Irvin, the Cowboys, the Dallas Cowboys receiver legend. Okay, number 88, second number 88, obviously, but of the dynasty of the 90s. Okay, who else? Yeah, Conor McGregor type stuff. You remember that? That was in Miami. Okay, after he did that weird thing by knocking out the mascot, and then later that night in a Miami club, oh my God, some chick came out and was, oh, he forced himself on me into a bathroom, only for the CCTV footage to come out and just go, oh, she was trying to clout chase. Oh wow, imagine that. Color me surprised. And then Israel Adesanya, the former UFC middleweight champion, yeah, his ex-girl tried to put a case on him after he left her bum ass. Oh my God. These hoes, man, these hoes ain't loyal at all whatsoever. And of course, one of the more funny Me Too cases that came out revolved around Dwight Howard, you know, NBA center, multiple-time All-Star, defensive stalwart, former #1 overall pick, ended up getting accused by a guy. That shit was wild. Go back and watch that video because that was hilarious, okay? But that was just a smorgasbord of activity that ended up happening on the Me Too scene in 2023. But two of the bigger cases, okay, two of the ones that I followed more specifically, one involved Russell Brand in this entirely wild situation, okay? If you thought that the Vin Diesel description was a little bit far-fetched, there was one involving, I think it was the BBC, not that one, but the other one, but the radio broadcasting, okay? The radio broadcaster that was out there when Russell Brand had a show for them. There was one chick that came forward with a very credible claim from a year that, we don't need to get into specifics, said that in a big bathroom, okay, Russell simultaneously pinned her up against a wall while she was reaching in a medical, or in a medicine cabinet. He was also holding the door shut, and he was doing other things as well. And it's like, guys, if you can't even get your story straight, it's kind of like that masseuse. He's like, oh, he did some terrible things to me. It's like, well, we got CCTV footage. Oh, shucks. I guess that didn't end up working out for me. But how about, the police department, the London police trying to solicit? Like, they don't have any credible claims against the guy. They have to go out there and try to find them. But of the stories that they have, they don't have anything. They don't have anything more relevant than 2015 to lay against Brand, who, wow, funny. Back when he was out there just being, top philanderer, a top R, if you will, nobody seemed to care. But the moment that he started to talk against certain institutional issues, all of a sudden the accusations start to come out the woodworks right in time for a certain election when people would be searching for truth. A little bit suspicious, if you ask me. Russell Brand and why the allegations took so long to surface. Yeah, some of these details I'll obviously just give the 35,000 foot view on, but if you want more detailed situation, pretty sure I got a playlist on this, or at least I have multiple videos on the situation all the way up to and including the UK government intervening in order to try to get Twitter, TikTok, and Rumble, after they successfully pressured and lobbied YouTube to demonetize Russell Brand for nothing that he did on the platform, no charges that were even brought against him, just simple allegations, simple words somebody spoke into the ether, ended up costing him millions of dollars. Not like he quite needs it, he's set up fairly well, but the way that they tried to strong-arm Rumble the platform, Rumble the free speech platform, that's very shocking, but totally not under the realm, or out of the realm of possibilities for the censorious UK government. It came as little surprise that the darker corners of the internet were ablaze with conspiracy theories this week after Russell Brand used his YouTube channel to call for the allegations of SA and grape against him a coordinated attack and serious and concerted agenda to control his voice. Sure seems like it. Toby Young, a former editor at The Spectator, asked if there were any more innocent reasons why the Times, Sunday Times, and Channel 4 dispatches had waited so long to produce their findings, while the British business magnate Alan Sugar tweeted that it was strange that multiple people had come forward at the same time. Yeah, it's almost like somebody was trying to run a slanderous documentary but needed to have some anonymous people to come and lend credibility to some absolutely absurd claims. Oh no! We had previously had a sexual relationship and he was apologizing about not using a bag once. That's basically like being tied up in a dungeon and getting beat with a rubber hose. No, that's definitely a one-to-one comparison. It's like all of this stuff centered around the time when Russell Brand was on top of the world. He's still one of the top podcasts that are out there, but he was in movies. He was a touring comedy act. You couldn't go anywhere in the early 2010s without seeing this guy's face, even if you wanted to or not. And then he hooked up with Katy Perry, and that bitch made him crazy, so oh well. He fell off hard, and he reinvented himself as a podcaster. He gave up his more liberal ways, if you will, and then ended up catching a few different cases. It's absolutely wild, but not unexpected at all. And while that story still has open ends, because we still have no conclusion, no charges have been laid, but investigations are still going on, I'm sure, I guess if they need a follow-up documentary to publish over there. But one story that does have a conclusion and something that's been going on for a long old time, and that's the Trevor Bauer situation. Finally settled. All of the lawsuits, the man is out of the mud in a legal sense, but finally had the opportunity to tell on that bitch Lindsay Hill, and he finally released the video. Y'all remember this video that was right here 2 years later, and I can finally talk about it. Bitch, you better secure the bag. Net worth of $51 million. Trevor Bauer was targeted by a liar. It cost him the most lucrative annual average value contract ever afforded to a pitcher. Since been, completely and totally derailed by Shohei Ohtani's contract, but cost him hundreds of millions of dollars in the short term. In the long term, a whole hell of a lot more than that. But was it based on fact? Was it based on fiction? I think you know exactly what time it is, okay? Given the fact that, oh no, he beat me up so bad. It was so bad, this beat up thing, okay? I was so traumatized that I had to take this video inside his bed, laying right next to him the morning after we had consensual relations. This story, man, since its inception made me sick to my stomach, and then the moment that Trevor dropped this in early October, all of my worst fears came true. Is that everybody's seen this? Elon Musk even commented on it, and we are still at a situation where everybody just blanket believes these hoes, when in actuality, nothing should be further from the truth. But before we get to the top 2 stories of the year, I think you already know where we're going to be going with those. So the thing that's going to be left is the mystery is what's number 1, what's number 2, okay? I want to give you guys, just a couple of quick hitters. This entire topic was maybe, just kind of cobbled together with a bunch of different disparate stories, but it had a good through line. But I want to hit everybody up with a few honorable mentions before we get into the top 2 stories of 2023. This year has been so crazy when it comes to the news cycle that alien corpses could be presented in front of a national congress, and everybody looks at it believably and just goes, what are you trying to do? Okay, what are we doing over here? That is obviously fake. The Mexican aliens, it was a big talking point there in and around September. What was going on at that time? I can't remember what they were trying to use this as a distraction effort, but come on, man. Like the little goofy, thirsty aliens right there, made for some good memeage, but in actuality, Mexico, as a wise man once said, they're not sending their best, folks. And that's, I don't really know why it's such a big news story. You got aliens from Mexico. Yeah, big shock, okay? Something that happened right at the beginning of the year was the Chinese spy balloon. The Chinese spy balloon. And even still, we're getting new information on that. You remember, that was going across, the Dakotas, the northern part of the United States. There were a couple of other flying objects that were shot up at the same time. There was one, I think, in the Arctic Circle, a little bit closer to that, in Alaska for sure. I think Canada even tried to get in on it by just going, hey, we got one flying over, we got some flying over the territories, eh? We shoot them down, eh? The big one was, of course, the Chinese spy balloon, which in actuality, if China wanted to spy on anybody, do they really need a balloon? Otherwise, they could just get the information, because all of the big corporations, all your big tech companies are just giving that information out all willy-nilly. So did they actually need theoretical eyes on the ground? No, that was just a power play. That was a punk test. And guess what? Biden failed spectacularly, but stop me when you've heard that one before. And in March, it was just a little while later, you had the spectacular collapse of the Silicon Valley Bank. What was the Silicon Valley Bank? You guys might have forgotten all of this stuff. This is basically where all of Silicon Valley puts all of its money, and then in an afternoon, it just folded up operations. Like, what happened? Bank failures like this have happened before. There were more than 550 banks shut down between 2001 and 2003, but not as spectacularly as this one. But this one was particularly noteworthy. Not only did it come at a time when many people in the United States already feared a recession, but it was the largest bank to fail since Washington Mutual closed its door amid the financial crisis in 2008. For as bad as inflation and a bunch of the other economic markers like, job creation and all that stuff has been for in 2023, hasn't quite fallen out yet. We're still waiting on that one. But the key takeaways of this one, Silicon Valley Bank, the 16th largest bank in the United States, was shut down by federal regulators. A day after my birthday, March 10th. The bank's failure came as a result of several factors, including its investments losing money and its depositors withdrawing large amounts of money. What did they know that not everybody else did? According to a report by the Federal Reserve, blame was ultimately attributed to the bank's management, the regulator, and social media. Oh my God. Do you guys remember the management structure on that one? I got a pretty successful video on that topic. That was hilarious. Oh my God, just DEI on your board of directors. You get what you deserve on that. In the aftermath of the collapse, federal regulators promised to make all deposits whole, even for those funds that weren't protected by FDIC, right? The Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. And that was something else that they were doing. They weren't insuring anything that they were doing. So wild. The Reserve took steps following the collapse of SVB to improve confidence in the banking system. Yeah, well, you're going to have to end yourself and prevent future banking failures, including its bank term funding program for Citizens Bank, which struck a deal with FDIC to buy SVB's deposits and loans in addition to certain other assets. That was one of those weird blink and you miss it type stories that happened at the beginning of the year. Okay, but something that everybody couldn't keep their eyes off of, Lauren Boebert was doing during that screening, or that Beetlejuice play in Denver. Like, she was out there, just acting like a high schooler. Might have the mentality of one, but why are you doing that in public? Like, you're supposed to be a public servant after all, and you're out there in a cocktail dress getting felt up by a Democratic super donor. What you doing? U.S. Representative Lauren Boebert was kicked out of a Beetlejuice show in Denver on Sunday. Yes, in mid-September, according to security footage. The theater didn't name Boebert, but you could see it. And then she went around to the concierge, to the usher that was escorting her, her drunken self, and her date of the evening, turning around and flipping them the bird on the way out the venue. What a classy lady. Yeah, guests, they were kicked out after audience members accused them of vaping, singing, using phones, causing a disturbance, touching on each other like that's the first time that you've ever grabbed a set of tits. Okay, she was also reaching for something else, but it came, it went, and all the TradCon white knights came out of the woodworks and it was like, oh my God, Lauren Boebert's one of our best that's out there. And then where was she during the time when Kevin McCarthy was getting ousted as Speaker of the House, and then, stupid ass, Mike Johnson's one of our best, okay? He's one of our staunchest MAGA allies. Oh, God. I would talk more about specifically politics, but I think we're going to have more than enough of our fill in 2024, and talking about congressional Republicans already just makes me sad enough, so we don't need to continue to do that. But something else that was kind of sad and hilarious at the same time, lesbian Nana. Oh my God, West Yorkshire Police Department, okay, ended up getting her feelings hurt and then had an autistic teenager hauled off to police. And she later, a couple of months later, had a spurg out. Some protesters turning the mace live on him. Okay, well, hey man, by women in frontline roles, combat roles, or anything like that, not exactly the best choice that you could have out there. But circling back around to what the Dodgers were doing earlier this year, oh my God, listen, I gave them props for being incredibly creative and giving out one of the, probably what's going to end up being one of the best value contracts with Shohei Ohtani. I know it's crazy, but then also deriding them for what they did to Trevor Bauer last year, and then especially them not trying to make amends this year. They did something equally stupid over the summer by inviting a bunch of drag nuns, some degenerate creeps from the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, ending up sparking a huge counter protest where you had a bunch of Catholics that were out there, which, yeah, imagine that, okay? You're trying to celebrate degeneracy, which is only lauded by a bunch of liberal white women, okay, who would never, ever, ever go to a baseball game, let alone one that's in Los Angeles, unless, of course, they're in one of the luxury boxes. But the people, the actual on-the-street supporters of the Dodgers, very Hispanic, okay? And Hispanic culture, now if you even just take a look at the polls, but also in a societal aspect, very conservative crew that they have over there. So, of course, that wasn't going to end up going well. And, of course, Dodgers ended up going on a protracted losing streak. Hell, some of the current members, Blake Trevian, was very vocal about his displeasure with the Pride Night of the Dodgers and the celebration of the drag nuns. They even tried to usher out Clayton Kershaw by going, hey guys, for the first time in a long time, we're going to have Catholic night. And it's going to be great. You had several other, Trevor Williams, pitcher for the Nationals, come out and say that this is some of the most degenerate stuff that I've seen in a very, very long time. But it was one of those things where it's like, wow, there's actually going to be some redemption for sports that's out there. That is, of course, until there was, a death on the ice rink. It was over in the UK, obviously, but involved somebody who had a very bright future ahead of him until he was cut down. Adam Johnson, drafted by the Pittsburgh Penguins, out there playing in the Elite League in the UK earlier this year, caught an errant skate from somebody who has a rap sheet, probably as long as the one that, well, we don't need to go into that, but Matt Petgrave. Matt Petgrave flailing around like a fish on ice, ended up catching Adam Johnson, one of the most regrettable situations ever. I don't necessarily hold him responsible, but then at the same time, he thankfully ended up getting snatched up for, I think, involuntary manslaughter, but the fact that the adoring fans, when his picture got put on the Titantron, or, the big screen that's up there, he got a standing ovation. I don't ever want to be lectured to by any goofs over in the UK about how things should and ought to be. You plotted a murderer, you creeps. What are you going to do for O.J. Simpson night? Holy. But something that really gestated back in 2021 ended up blossoming into full maturity a couple years later when Chris Rock finally publicly addressed the Will Smith slap and really made a mockery out of the Will and Jada Smith situation, put that fully on blast, and then, for the rest of the year, Jada Pinkett Smith ended up continuing to make an ass out of Will, saying that, we've been separated for 7 years, but then Chris Rock's slap really brought us closer together as a family. It was fantastic stuff. But Hollywood's kind of a weird place. It's also a dying place. I did a dedicated video on this, but hey man, for those of you who haven't seen it, I guess it's a good advertisement for it. Looking specifically at how badly Disney has done in its 100th anniversary. Yeah, Disney has died on the vine 1000%. And to make matters worse, one of its essential figures for one of its flagship brands in Marvel ended up getting completely thrown by the wayside. Jonathan Majors, the would-be Kang the Conqueror, got fired just about as quickly as he got found guilty, okay? And this one right here could have ended up falling into the Me Too category, but because he was convicted, okay, even though, you take a look at the overarching evidence, you can come to different conclusions, but that's all right. No use crying over spilt milk. This was a gigantic blow to a brand that had already had to deal with so many other terrible disasters, chiefly the Marvels, and how poorly that is done. Didn't even break $100 million domestically, barely crossed $200 million worldwide. Horrendous, but not the worst brand to fall completely off. That would be Doctor Who. It was already on its last legs, thanks to the first and only female doctor, Jodie Whittaker, finally departing your screens the summer of 2022. And then to celebrate the 60th anniversary of the show, they bring back two of the most popular characters in the series' revived run starting in 2005 with David Tennant, the 10th Doctor, now reprising the role and taking on the moniker of the 14th Doctor as well. You had Shannon Tate come back as Donna Noble, and they were going to have a 3-episode arc that was about as bad as it could possibly get. But nobody ever thought that Russell T Davies, the guy who was responsible for writing the reboot in 2005, he's got to have something left in the tank, right? Wrong, because the only thing that he has left now with his new doctor, the 15th, Ncuti Gatwa, is to simply play the race card. And I won't go too much into this because you'll probably be seeing something on this in a dedicated video in the new year. But now, instead of just taking responsibility for your hack writing, it's just no, everybody's racist who criticizes the show. Fantastic stuff. The industry in general, when it comes to entertainment, is looking an awful lot like the political landscape, a total disaster area, mostly due to the fact that too many people that are in charge of Hollywood and the public facing individuals associated with it melded those two realms a little bit too closely in the past decade. You can argue, and I would, a lot of the messaging started well earlier than that, but it really came to fruition. It really climaxed, in the past couple of years. And now they're having to reconcile all of those poor creative decisions. And it all manifests in protracted strikes, box office bombs, nobody in charge being able to lead all of these sheep. Hollywood is in trouble, okay? And I would normally say that this was the industry that ended up taking the biggest shellacking, but it's 2023 after all, and there were a couple of news stories right there at the top of the charts that permeated the entire year. I think you know where we're going to be going with the number 2 story of 2023. I bet you guys thought that this was going to be number 1. Heck, there's probably a few arguments that could be made that this should be the top story of 2023, but Where's the fun and predictability, right? And to be completely fair, yeah, it was a story that permeated large swaths of 2023. From April all the way through until today, we're still talking about how badly Bud Light handled their Dillon Mulvaney situation. But going into 2024, we've seen the stocks kind of rebound, okay? We've seen them spend a whole lot of money, okay? We've seen them partner up with some of the most successful brands over the past few years in the UFC. A lot of its staunchest critics try to turn the other cheek, probably because they're getting paid to turn the other cheek. But even still, it would take a Herculean effort for Anheuser-Busch to fumble the bag as badly as it did in 2023 to continue its failings into 2024. The only thing that's left is to put time between their failure, April 1st of 2023, and whatever they do successfully in the future. But still, that warrants enough for the second spot, okay? It can take silver, okay? It can be runner-up, like Dillon Mulvaney's a runner-up girl, but disastrous year for Bud Light. Bud Light's complete and total collapse is categorized and cataloged by Newsweek. As billions and billions of people across the globe look forward to the dawning of a new year, few entities will be happy to say goodbye as Anheuser-Busch InBev, the parent company of beleaguered beer brand Bud Light. Disney's probably the only other company that's equally as anticipatory of 2024 as them. Over the past several months, 8 months, 8 whole months, got 8 months, that's crazy. Bud Light has seen itself unceremoniously dethroned as America's best-selling beer and relegated to an undesirable position of a symbol of one of the nation's most prominent culture wars of the past year. Once proudly held aloft by sports fans across the United States, bottles of the beverage were suddenly shunned in favor of any other beer. People filmed themselves tipping the contents of Bud Light bottles and cans down drains. Some gleefully shared photos of deeply discounted, although still unsold packs of Bud Light. Was it the $3.24 packs at Walmart? Those were the days. God, that was so much fun. For those who can recall, all this stemmed from Bud Light partnering with transgender social media influencer Dillon Mulvaney for a small campaign. Remember, guys, it was just one can, it was just one post. No, it wasn't. No, you can go ahead and try to gaslight us, but we remember. The company gifted Mulvaney a personalized, not-for-sale can of beer with her face, the commemorative 365 days of living as a woman. 365 days of girlhood, guys. Oh my God, go sports ball. I like the March Madness thing. Which charted her first year of transitioning. Was a viral success. Yeah, it was. It certainly did go viral. After Mulvaney shared the video with the product on April 1st, the condemnation came thick and fast from a number of conservative figures. I'm not even going to sully my mouth with his name. There we go. Pause. Gross. With many issuing calls for a boycott. Musicians Kid Rock, who ended up turning the other cheek. Travis Tritt, John Rich, Big and Rich, they were some of the most vocal opponents of Bud Light at the time. 2 of the 3 still holding the line, and one of the most vocal supporters of Bud Light happened to be Garth Brooks, but how will that work out for him? A lot of people clowned on him at the time. I wonder how well his bar is doing right now. I'm sure it's probably good right now, but we'll see how long that lasts. Country singer Travis Tritt banned Bud Light from his tour bus, while conservative political commentator Ben Shapiro, oh my God, well, he doesn't drink beer to begin with. Our culture is now decided that men and women and women are men, and we must be forced to consume products that they say so. Oh my God, thanks for the insight there, Benny boy. You're probably just more upset that, Bud Light isn't kosher. Shortly after the criticism, spokesperson for Bud Light told Newsweek in a statement that the company works with hundreds of influencers. Don't worry, guys, this is just one can. It's just one promotion. Don't worry about it. Then plummeting stock, ending up, oh my God, it went from $66.39 to $53.20. It has since rebounded quite a bit. Then came along an unusually contentious Pride Month. Yes, from what we talked about a little bit earlier with Target, Kohl's, all of those woke stores ending up facing a stronger than average Pride Month backlash. People were tired, but they were also emboldened of 2 months of tailgating. with Bud Light, the only time that Bud Light was invited to a tailgate in 2023. The sheer sight of Bud Light backing the big gay event. Yes, they sponsored a Toronto Pride event. Yeah, a very, very gay Pride event. I'll just say that. They acted defiance by those who felt wronged by the brand collaborating with Mulvaney. Knock-on effect saw the host of other large brands targeted too as they took part in Pride Month. Yes, of course, but the orange man's the one to blame. Even the mere presence of Bud Light logos. Caught in the background, one of the former President Donald Trump's rallies in Erie, Pennsylvania. Remember how that was trying to be pushed by the Lincoln Project types? Oh, he's at an arena. He's at an arena in Erie, Pennsylvania, and they're promoting Bud Light. Yeah, it was on the flashing of the Titantron that was above the arena, okay? There's very little that Trump can do about that, okay? Criticism particularly stemmed from those who were supporting, yes, Ron DeSantis. I said Lincoln Project types, but just give him a little time. He's still trying to campaign for president. DeSantis threatened in July to sue Anheuser-Busch InBev. Oh my God, yeah, that's where everything just kind of fell off because it's like, oh my God, your uncool uncle ended up stumbling into the room, and it's like, you're just not making this fun anymore, Ron. In July, former Anheuser-Busch executive Anson Fredericks told Newsweek why Bud Light has faced such a devastating and enduring boycott. And yeah, man, okay, as we know, Alyssa Heinerschneid, okay, she was the one who was behind all of that stuff. In an unearthed interview of her saying, well, guys, we need to just move away. We need to move away from this fratty, out-of-touch behavior. We need to find a new audience. And her solution? Dillon Mulvaney and all of her underage followers on TikTok? Yeah, not exactly winning strategy if you're an alcohol company. All right, very interesting as well. So she ended up getting the boot. Well, after she got placed on, extended unpaid leave. Her, Daniel Blake, her boss, and then they ended up getting replaced. At the same time, they also had to release a couple hundred executives, and Bud Light really hasn't recovered at all whatsoever, and everybody can see that, okay? Ex-Anheuser-Busch president predicts long road to recovery for woke corporations as customers push back, and that is 1,000% for true. American consumers voted with their wallets against woke corporations in 2023, with many brands losing large chunks of money for their shareholders. On Tuesday's installment, that's the bottom line. Fox Business, Kelly O'Grady and Sean Duffy, the most Irish co-hosting team in the world, took a look back at some of the cringiest, most embarrassing companies of corporate virtue signaling and subsequent consumer backlash. Former Anheuser-Busch executive Anson Fredericks, that's why we moved over to this article because he's speaking again, suggested that many consumers are pushing back because they are fed up with major corporations telling them how to think and what to do. Bud Light and its parent company Anheuser-Busch came under fire shortly after partnering with Dillon Mulvaney March Madness. We know. Sales began to plummet. Brendan Whitworth, the CEO of Anheuser-Busch, offered several apologies. None of them actually had sorry guys, we're actually sorry for doing that. We're trying to attract a different audience. We know that kind of pissed you guys off, but we're still dedicated to the cause, but we're just going to do better in the future. If he simply would have done that, everything would have been fine, but instead he had this maudlin response where we never intended to be part of a discussion that divides people by firmly engaging in one of the most contentious issues of our time. Good stuff. By May, Anheuser-Busch had dropped $27 billion. That ended up crescendoing with about 40.6, if my memory serves me correct, and sales were down nearly 30% compared to the previous year, where they sit currently right now, as I detailed in my most recent video. In July, the company announced it was laying off hundreds of workers. Those were all executives anyways. It wasn't frontline guys. In its third quarter, the company suffered a 13.5% decline in U.S. revenue and a 17.1% decline in North American sales value. So this was international, baby. Retail giant Target faced similar backlash. We just talked about that as well. Disney, touched on that, and have definitely been talking about that a lot recently, that, they wanted to wade into the culture war. They wanted to go ahead and say that need to curate the tastes and opinions of people that are out there. They're going to be the taste makers instead of trendsetters that made them popular to begin with. 2023, it was a bad time to be woke. It really was, but nobody, nowhere ended up feeling the pinch more than the alcohol industry, and specifically the absolute best marketer of 2023. So I bet you're wondering to yourself, what's number one? We only have one story remaining. What was the biggest story of 2023? Well, when I was racking my brain, when I was asking myself, what is the number one story of 2023? I couldn't come up with it on my own. I had to ask a lot of people. A lot of people tell me what the biggest story of 2023 is. And in fact, it gave me pause. It gave me a reason to really think about what was the biggest story of the year, and really it wasn't any further than what it has been for the past decade. I mean, come on. Could it be anything else? Could it be anything other than Trump? He's been the top story since 2015, 2016 at least. Okay, the man knows how to control a news cycle, and that's the only reason that he probably took the lead over Bud Light. Sure, Bud Light burned hotter, but probably also burned faster. But Trump, his news story and the fact that he becomes the first former president to ever be formally indicted, not once, not twice, not three times, 4 times, still with other lawsuits still waiting in the wings, still with trying to be took off the ballot for 2024. There is overarching implications of what's going to be happening with this big orange mushroom cloud that is off in the distance. I'm telling you guys, I am looking forward to 2024. I think it's going to be a great year for everybody involved, but I'm definitely looking forward to the election, okay, in November. I understand that we're looking 11 months ahead, and Don, let's not wish away the year quite yet, but retribution, baby, it's gonna be great. I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, first and foremost, what happened? Okay, why's Trump number one? Well, he was indicted 4 times, the first time ever for a president. So here's Trump's mugshot, the first ever of a former president. Yes, thank you, Time. And this was everywhere, man, and it's such a great mugshot. Okay, like even a big old Trump smile. Nah, man, the scowl, the slightly looking up, it's perfect. It's perfect. World's seen hundreds of thousands of pictures of Donald Trump, but this one's different. Donald Trump mugshot taken at the Fulton County Jail, and on Thursday, he's looking straight into the camera's platinum blonde, cotton candy wisps of hair. This is written like a romance novel. Shimmers in the harsh jailhouse lighting. His eyes are locked in a hard stare. His mouth is flattened in a grimace. Instead of smiling like one of his co-defendants, he appears to be scowling. Yes. So many people, what was it, like a dozen other people ended up getting booked at the same time, including stupid Jebba Ellis, who is really making an ass out of herself right now on social media. But if I was weighing news stories on size, she might have ended up making the list, but she's so inconsequential in the grand scheme of things. Like a lot of those DeSantis orbiters, they're just going to completely fall off in a couple months' time, so don't even worry about it. The mugshot was released by Fulton County Sheriff's Office roughly an hour after the former president was booked as inmate P01135-809 over charges that he illegally schemed to overturn the 2020 election. Oh my God, but that's not the only one, okay? 2 state cases, 2 federal cases. Which ones are we dealing with here, okay? Might as well go over this, a simple guide to his 4 big legal cases. Former President Donald Trump is facing dozens of criminal charges and will go on trial several times in the next 18 months. His legal problems are mounting as his campaign to become president again in the 2024 election. Just don't look at the polls, because then it doesn't really look like there's going to be too much of a challenge. Here's what's going on. Earlier this month, obviously this was published at the time of the release of the mugshot in August, so don't worry about it too much. Prosecutor for the U.S. state of Georgia, stupid Fanny, I love to bang every rapper in arm's length, Willis, laid out a number of charges leveled at the Republican former president and current Republican presidential frontrunner. He is accused of engaging in a conspiracy to steal votes cast in the 2020 election for Democrat Joe Biden and effectively overturn his narrow defeat in the state. Yeah, of the federal cases that are levied against Trump, that one's weak, man. That was super weak because it involves the insurrection that never was. The 13 charges against Trump laid out in the document, which is called an indictment. Oh, I didn't know that. Thank you for clearing that up. It is his 4th indictment this year. That one ended up, being the final one, right? The Georgia one. do Trump's other indictments accuse him of? Funny you should ask. The first indictment in March accused Trump of false accounting to cover up a payment he made to, yes, a Stormy Daniels. Oh, yes, the hush money. When in actuality, it's a simple business misdemeanor, but because fat-ass Alvin Bragg just really wants to be the guy that convicts Trump, he's using some very strange legal theory that doesn't even hold water, or in his case, soda, heavy cream, whatever he drinks. So that one, okay, like that one's going to end up failing a big time. That $130,000 was to buy her silence about an alleged affair, which we don't even know actually happened. We just take it at face value because some professional whore said it did. Whatever. A relationship he has always denied and will go on trial in New York. And he's also charged in Florida with illegally hoarding classified files at his estate there, Mar-a-Lago, and refusing to hand them back when asked. Yeah, this one's... Some people are saying, some people tell me that this is the stronger of the cases, okay? I still think, I know I'm innocent, okay? I've got this thing called presidential declassification powers. It's something that creepy Joe Biden, Sleepy Joe didn't have when he took all of his documents home with him. But boxes and boxes. He kept some in Chinatown. He brought some home. He kept them in the garage. I had them locked up at Mar-a-Lago. I worked with the National Archives, okay, folks? But Joe didn't. And is he getting raided? Is his home getting raided? I don't think so. Didn't want to interrupt any of the Chinese diplomats that were over to have a nice business dealing in order to get to the bottom of what they're discussing with Hunter. Have you seen what he's been up to lately? He is sad. It's a sad state for the country. Like the most recent charges in Georgia, that one accused him of trying to cling to power by interfering in the 2020 election. Yeah, whatever, bro. The prosecutor said these lies had fueled the support for the attack on the U.S. Capitol. Yeah, exactly. Can't wait for that one to start. It's the difference between state and federal charges. Yeah, 2 of the 4 indictments in New York and Georgia are brought by prosecutors at the state level. The other 2 in Florida and Washington were made by Jack Smith. We know. This difference has implications on the way the trials will be conducted. For instance, the trial in Georgia could be televised, but the others ban cameras in the courtroom. Yeah, thanks New York and then federal. That's what happens. If Trump does become president, he would have the power to influence the federal cases, even possibly get them dropped. Theoretically. Can Trump still run for president? I think we know the answer to that. Could Trump be jailed? Theoretically, but then that also poses some very interesting structural problems. Like, okay, where are you going to put the most famous man on earth? He gets booked. You don't put him in Gen Pop. It would be cruel and unusual punishment to put him in solitary confinement, especially for the charges levied against him. Would he have to be confined to home arrest? And even if he does get indicted, when these cases do end up going through, he could have an elected president sitting on house arrest. It's a very strange proposition. And like I said, 2024 is going to be wild because here's all the court dates that go down. Okay, so on the 2nd of January, Washington, D.C. trial for alleged plot to overturn the election. I think that one got pushed off a little bit, but the E. Jean Carroll defamation case, oh my God, because that was another wild-ass Me Too story, but I thought it fit a little bit better by just recapping everything that went on with Trump. You remember, okay, this E. Jean Carroll, she just baked up some crazy story about Trump accosting her in the 1990s in a Bloomingdale's right next to the Plaza Hotel that Trump very famously owned, by the way. But yeah, no. They had this dalliance and Trump forced himself upon her. It's kind of strange how she could go ahead and accuse somebody of rape when she doesn't consider it to be an act of violence, but rather something that somebody can consider to be sexy. Go ahead and take a look at what happens. How she creeps out Anderson Cooper on CNN, of all people. That happens, yeah, there was just a petition, like some breaking news on that one, where a petition to have that case delayed, it ended up getting denied. So that one's going to be going through, and that one's just a couple of weeks away at the same time as the Iowa caucuses, where he's going to end up beating everybody by like 20, 30 points, okay? Because Iowa, Trump has sewn up, basically, from toes to titties. And then at the same time, I think the New Hampshire primary is happening. And that one's theoretically a little bit closer, but Trump's still taking it by double digits, okay? It doesn't matter how many Fox News hack polls come out saying that actually Nikki Haley's within striking distance. Well, Nikki Haley just, really pissed off the normies out there by saying that the Civil War wasn't about slavery. The only time that Nikki Haley's been right about anything ever. The Nevada primary on February 6th. which, of course, Trump's going to win that one. February 15th, okay, we got the trial for the alleged bid to overturn the Georgia election loss by this date. Stormy Daniels' trial on March 25th, and May 20th, the classified files trial, which Jack Smith tried to get expedited, but that request ended up getting turned down. So in the first 6 months of the year, we got some court cases to follow. Like I said, guys, it's going to be crazy. And some other ones that I don't think will ever go to court, but what is definitely making the rounds right now. But Trump right there. Is he going to be on the ballot? State by state look at the lawsuits to remove Trump from 2024 ballots. We've heard a couple of these, okay? New Mexico tried it at the late summer, early fall. It was ultimately unsuccessful. And then for a short period of time, and here's some news that's just dropping within the past 24 or 48 hours, Colorado Supreme Court ended up overturning their ruling. Surprise! It's almost like somebody told you that was exactly what was going to happen based on the ruling from New Mexico. And then even if it did get up to the Supreme Court, they didn't even bother with the U.S. Supreme Court on that one. They just went like, yeah, it's not going to happen. Michigan tried to ban Trump off the ballot, and then their Supreme Court was like, oh, you can't do that. And the only one that's sticking right now, I don't even know if this will be relevant by the time that this video goes live, but the main, what was it, Secretary of State just unilaterally decided, yeah, Trump can't be on there. He's a bad guy. And I've got pictures with Biden and Barack. It's not a conflict of interest at all whatsoever. But as the Secretary of State of Minnesota, the only state, listen, we've got our machine washable pillows. And we had Jesse the Body Ventura as our governor in the 90s. It was a great place to be. Actually makes a salient point for one of the most, blue-pilled state in the entire union. Christ almighty, they were the lone holdout for Reagan in 84, which if everything's going to be on the up and up, we're probably going to see a run back of in 2024. God willing. Trump will either be on the ballot everywhere or nowhere. That is 1000% true because, yes, ultimately the Supreme Court will make the ruling on the matter, okay? Because that's exactly what's going to happen here. And the Supreme Court is ultimately going to have to make a ruling on all of these indictments as well, okay? Even if they do end up going through like the kangaroo show that was happening with that trial in New York, that goofy Angorian judge that stupid fat ass Letitia James was bringing against. Like she campaigned on going after Trump and then brought a lawsuit that doesn't have any injured parties. Like, how is that even going through? Like, that one's ultimately going to get reversed by, I don't know, any judge that has good well-being, but that's not the point, man. That's not the point where Trump is just getting completely and totally run dry. You've seen the other reports that are out there in regards to the RNC's, the coffers of the party being completely and totally dried right to the bottom. Why isn't the RNC actually helping out Trump in any material form or fashion? Why are they just letting their front runner just hang to the seven corners and not supporting him in his time of need? Because he's a moneymaker. And he's keeping his own money, and he's threatening to destroy the establishment this time around. It's not make friends Trump this time around. If he wins in 2024, I don't want to jinx myself, okay? If he wins in 2024, he's going to wreck shop. You know it as well as I do. The establishment on both sides, the uniparty is shook to its core. And that, more so than anything, is the biggest reason why I think that Trump being indicted, Trump being run up the pole on every single political, prosecutorial, and legal sense, that's why that is the biggest news story of 2023. So, ladies and gentlemen, that about does it for my recap of 2023. I really do hope you enjoyed that. It was really fun to just, go down, take a stroll down memory lane, just go through all of the biggest stories of the year. And it was so nice in order to, I've got my little list that's over there, construct that, and then just realize how fortunate I am to be able to share my opinions and thoughts and have frank discussions with you guys multiple times a day on a whole host of topics. This year, okay, on January 1st of 2023, I took a screenshot of my channel on the YouTube studio side of things. On the Rumble side of things, I didn't quite do that, but just humor me on the YouTube side of things for a second. I started the year at 1,715 subscribers. Now, as I talk right now, we are over 6,500 subscribers, just about 5x'd my platform. Which other content creator, which other pundit out there can go ahead and say that they 5x their platform? I thank you all very much for affording me that, okay? Reinvigorating my passion for this, because to be completely honest, 2021, 2022, it was a slog. It was a trudge. But now that we're coming up to a very tumultuous year in 2024, and with your guys' incredible support in 2023, I'm definitely re-energized for this stuff. You guys afforded me quite a beautiful 2023, and I think that this is the perfect way to sign off one of the best years on record. So with all that said, I thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Happy New Year and take care, everyone.